All right, let's go. It is drive time. It is a Tuesday. It's 14 minutes past the hour, 2 o'clock. We are still kind of in the midst of this cool weather stretch in May. It's about 60 degrees, roughly, a little cloud coverage. Here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah, we are expected to have some better weather throughout the rest of the week and into the weekend. And as it is every single day, it is good to have you with us. Spence Checketts behind the mic after a day off yesterday. Shout out to my guy Tony Parks and, of course, Porter holding the fort down while I was in St. George embarrassing myself in a golf tournament. I'm going to be very honest about the experience. Porter, actually, right off the top, I have an announcement to make before we dig into the show today. So it's a very special announcement for all of my friends and family members and fans out there. I am opening up the show today announcing that I have retired from the game of golf. It was a good run. Started playing about 5 years ago. Got some new clubs. Shout out to my guy Jordan Bloxham for trying to help me out. Shout out to my guy B Metz, my first golf coach. And before we get into the show, I am announcing officially today that after a good 5-year career, I am officially stepping away from the game of golf. So I'd like to announce that.
Congrats on a great run.
Well, I just want to spend more time with my family.
Right.
You know, I feel like this grind that I've been on, playing Bonnie and Mountaindale twice a week for about 5 years, I feel like the grind has taken it out of me, and I just need to get back to ground zero and just rediscover who I am as a person.
It's understandable. But there's a point in every competitor's life when you got to move on. You like to go out on top, right? You like to.
Very much did not happen.
But you also like to, be able to be in control of when you say goodbye, right?
Yeah.
That's something that not every athlete, not every competitor.
That's actually a really good point. I feel like you should always leave the party early. You don't want to be the guy that's at the house at 1 a.m. and the host is like, dude, I need to go to bed. I'm the guy that showed up, had a little dinner, hung out for a little bit, and decided it was time to go home and go to bed early. You always want to be the guy. And by the way, I do want to apologize to the patrons for robbing them of the experience of watching me play this game moving forward. I know you're bummed out that I'm leaving so early.
Right.
But I do feel like the time is right. I've been pondering it for the past 24 hours.
Calvin Johnson comes to mind.
Yes. Good call.
Barry Sanders.
Yep.
Andrew Luck.
Yep. Me. It's a short list, dude. I will get into some story time later. The deal about playing in a actual state-sanctioned qualifying tournament is your score is public, so I have nowhere to hide.
I've been looking for that score sheet.
I'll say this. I didn't finish last. Okay?
Where can I find that?
I finished a little closer to last than first. Tournament golf is a tough deal. It was quite a lesson. There are rules that you don't necessarily follow when you're grinding at Bonneville on a Saturday at 11:30.
Yeah, the only tournament-style golf that I've ever played is like a member guest type deal. Since I was the favorite cart boy up at unnamed golf courses in Summit County, I had a couple members that wanted me, instead of like bringing in one of their wealthy friends from Connecticut.
Easy, unnecessary shot out of the gate.
They allowed the cart boy, their favorite cart boy, to play some golf with them during the member guest tournaments, and I did awful.
Yeah,
when you have to like scoot back where you're teeing off from.
Yep,
you got to keep an actual score.
Yep,
it's not easy.
We'll do some story time later. I did break 100. There's that. Your boy shot a 94, and that was not good enough to qualify, to say the least. But, hey, good to be back. Again, shout out to Porter and Tony for holding the fort down while I was gone yesterday and being the rest of the week. Appreciate you guys making us a part of your day. My name is Spence Checketts. That's Porter Larson, and jam-packed guest list on the show. Some interesting things happening in the world of college football today that I want to get into. Some comments from the athletic director from Iowa State concerning what a lot of people believe is inevitable, the Big Ten of the SEC saying goodbye to the rest of the ecosystem of college football. The latest on the Brendan Sorsby situation. Get into some of those storylines on the show. There's some meetings going on right now that the Big 12 the Big 10 holding meetings about where they're at right now as a conference, trying to curtail spending. A lot of conversations about potentially roster spend reaching $80-90 million per year in the next 4 or 5 years. If they don't curtail some of this stuff and get in front of it, which they have not been able to do, quite frankly, in decades. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you don't have a salary cap, if you don't have rules in place, remember the announcement made last week, I believe, or 2 weeks ago, where Michigan is parlaying a $200 million investment into AI, into billions and billions of dollars, and they're going to allocate a bunch of that to their NIL spend for their football and their basketball teams. If you have the right donor base without any legislation or rules in place, there's no limit on what you can spend right now. So it's a sport that we all love, but it's a situation that has already jumped the shark that they're going to have to figure out how to get in front of this. So some interesting college football storylines have emerged today. Some interesting stuff. Ross Dellinger is reporting that the SCORE Act has been pulled from the House floor voting schedule, which means probably some bipartisan stuff got in the way. So we are no closer to landing on a solution to the problems that plague this sport that we all very much love. Now, NBA playoffs going on. The NBA world is buzzing about what we saw last night in Oklahoma City as the future of pro basketball is on display. Now, a lot of people don't necessarily watch the regular season of the NBA. A lot of people wait until the postseason. So you've heard of Victor Wembanyama. How many of you watched him for the first time last night, where a 7'5" man pulled up from the logo like Stephen Curry to tie the game in overtime and later on dominate to the tune of 41 points, 24 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 block shots in 49 minutes of play, which was a career high. And San Antonio takes a 1-0 lead over Oklahoma City after just a dynamite basketball game. So we're going to get into that on the program today. Tonight, it is the start of the Eastern Conference Finals. Excited to watch the Knicks and the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell back home playing at Madison Square Garden in the Eastern Conference Finals, something he probably always had dreamed of, but not wearing a New York Knicks jersey. So it'll be fun to watch Donovan at home tonight playing against the New York Knicks. So we'll get into some NBA playoffs. Of course, we are high speed ahead to the NBA draft. June the 23rd, the latest on the conversations that the Washington Wizards are having with multiple teams about the number 1 pick, including the Utah Jazz. Porter, before we get an opening tip, give me a hot take. Now, let me know how the show was yesterday. How did it go? Give me some. How did everything go yesterday with Tony?
Really good. Always easy with Tone. We're both guys that are, I guess, we like to spread it out, right? Like, not that you're just hoop centric, but that's your thing. Tony, whether it's baseball, whether it's I don't even know. We went all over the map. We hijacked the playlist, of course, so it was Country Music Day on the show.
Oh, dear.
It was good, though.
All right.
We even got some from our guy Smitty. As we mentioned, Smitty was in studio, a lot of NBA playoffs talk, and coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, but just appropriately, we talked a lot about Victor Wembanyama and as well as the OKC Thunder and what the next 5, 10, 15 years of the Western Conference might look like. That was a good bulk of the conversation, obviously recapping the PGA Championship where dark horse Aaron Rai got the victory. And then we didn't have a live scoreboard of the Utah golf qualifier, but I was really curious about what was going on down there.
Yeah, it didn't go well. I'll just say I'm proud of myself for finishing. Real quick, I had to card a 10 and a 9 on back-to-back par 4s.
Oh.
And once that happened, I'm like, dude, just go home. But I stayed. I finished all 18 holes.
Almost got a double-double, huh?
It was bad, man. It was rough. Like I said, didn't finish last. That's all that matters. You know what?
Who finished last?
I don't know. I don't want to say his name on air.
Can we flame them on air?
No, I don't want to say his name on air. All I know is there are plenty of golfers much better than I am that are cowards and wouldn't try that. So I'm proud of myself.
I will say, I give you like actual credit for just going out and trying that. It's, as we've talked about, it's the most frustrating, easiest sport to play, most difficult sport to perfect or even get good at.
Yeah.
So just putting yourself out there's a kudos.
New level of respect for people that are actually really good at golf. If you think you're good at golf, go play in an actual tournament golf event. You will be humbled like I was. But I can't wait to do it again because it got the competitive juices flowing. All right. Good guest list today. Chris Camerani, our college football savant and expert, will be live in studio for an hour. Neil Syka from MLS, Apple TV, RSL with a win over the weekend against Colorado, the Crapids. That's what we call them on this show. One more match for RSL before the World Cup break. My guy Q-Rich, Quentin Richardson, former Knick, longtime NBA player, will stop by to talk some NBA playoffs. And that I know Smitty was on the show yesterday, but today, of course, is the day, if you're a fan of the show, where I record my podcast with KUTV. And with the NBA playoffs going on, with the NBA draft right around the corner, I grabbed my guy Smitty to do that. So you'll hear that conversation a little bit later. It's going to be released on the podcast page tomorrow. It will be televised on KMYU and KJazz Television on Friday night. But before CK stops by, courtesy of our good friends at IFA Country Stores, it is time now for your opening tip. Now, keep in mind, with IFA's Weed and Feed, you'll grow strong, healthy, dark green turf without a weed in sight. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move, not now at IFA.coop or at one of your local stores. All right. So we talk a lot about the NBA draft coming up and what the Utah Jazz could walk away with the number 2 overall pick, or will they elect to back up the Brinks truck to try to convince Washington to convey the number 1 pick to the Jazz for number 2 and maybe a future first. Now, a lot of the hypothetical trades that I've seen going on make zero sense. Now, if you look at precedent, okay, and there's not a ton, if we're honest. Like, when it comes to moving off the top pick in the draft or a top 4 or 5 pick in the draft, it doesn't happen all that often. It does happen. It has happened. And the Jazz have been involved in one, trading up to draft Darren Williams once upon a time. Danny Ainge has been involved in one, trading the number 1 pick to Philadelphia in exchange for number 3 and a future first. And they used number 3 on Jason Tatum. The future first was not a good player that they used, but the Tatum thing was the real prize, and Boston walked away with a franchise-changing piece. So any notion that the Jazz would move number 2 and Ace Bailey for number 1, I think we need to throw that out the window. Or any expanded deal for the Jazz to move up to 1 regarding some good pieces they have on the roster, I don't think is a possibility. I have landed in the space where my belief is the Jazz should just take whoever Washington doesn't out of A.J. DeBonsa and Darren Peterson and then go from there and see what it looks like, okay? If Washington is willing to move 1 for 2 and maybe a future first, and the Jazz believe AJ is going to be that missing piece, no problem doing that, but no reason to blow up your roster when the perceived gap between Darren Peterson and AJ DeBonsa seems to be rather small. And only time will tell if that's real. All of that is to say, with what we saw on display last night in Oklahoma City, and quite frankly, if you are a fan of the NBA, and if you've been watching for the past couple of years, what we've seen as Victor Wembanyama continues to evolve right before our eyes, as we talk about all the time, as long as that dude stays healthy, and that, of course, is the big piece here, because every time I watch him run up and down the floor, like, he is built pretty well for a man who is 7'5", but he's thin. And he's a sprained ankle, knock on wood, a bad knee injury away from having this thing disrupted. But I think it's safe to say that what we saw last night between 2 high-level basketball teams with rosters stacked of very young players top to bottom, it's going to be tough for anybody, not just in the West, but in pro basketball, to beat either San Antonio or Oklahoma City for the next 5 to 7 years. which puts the calculation of where the Jazz are at pretty interesting because we always talk about championship windows, right? Building championship windows, building a roster. When a window opens, are you ready to capitalize on that moment? Toronto did it with a savvy Kawhi Leonard trade, even though they knew Kawhi was high speed ahead to Los Angeles. And the window that opened up for them was Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Kevin Durant all getting hurt. And suddenly Toronto beats the Warriors and they get their chip. They get their ring. So you never know when a window is going to open up. But I have to wonder if you're Austin Ainge, if you're Danny Ainge, if you're Justin Zanuck or Ryan Smith, are you watching what's happening in Oklahoma City? And if you're honest, your realistic window might not be until Darren Peterson or A.J. DeBonsa are 24 or 25 when Oklahoma City and San Antonio have some tough financial decisions to make. Because the league is set up in a way where dynasties are hard to create and really good rosters are hard to maintain based off the financials. Denver's the best example, okay? They've had to make some decisions with rosters that literally won an NBA championship not too long ago, and now Jokic is surrounded by some good pieces, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and such, but they've got some decisions to make even this offseason because Jokic will be in line to sign another Supermax deal. San Antonio and Oklahoma City, Western Conference Finals, is as high level of basketball as I've seen in a number of years. And the Knicks Cavs tonight will start in the East. But as Mike Wilbon said earlier today, that's the junior varsity. Whoever comes out of the East will be lucky to get a game off of either of these teams. All right, we'll catch our first break of this Tuesday show. Coming up next, we'll switch gears. A lot of interesting college football storylines have manifested. So we'll get Chris Camerati's take on that. And we'll go from there. Tuesday Drive, and it's good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. Fan of crosstalk, apparently. Chris Camerati is live in studio, bringing a little Matchbox 20 right off the top. So you listen to crosstalk.
I'm a crosstalk I am the original fan of crosstalk.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not proud of it.
I got in on the ground level.
You invested early.
Very early.
You're known for that, IPOs and such.
Well, I'm not trying to inflate your ego, but on the drive here, I heard the guy next to me blasting crosstalk at a stoplight.
Seriously?
Seriously.
You can inflate my ego if you'd like.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen, blasting crosstalk.
I know you need it after this weekend.
Bro.
Rough?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to tell you as an avid golfer, as someone who gets the deal.
You didn't use the 5-wood enough.
I don't have a 5-wood.
Well, that's your problem.
Tournament golf is a different deal. Okay, because I know you think I'm a golf bro.
I don't think you are. I think society might look at you as a golf bro. But I don't think you're a golf
Society can't define me. Society can't put me in a box. I'm dynamic. I cannot be defined.
A golf tournament in St. George, I would assume that the bro vibes were radiating.
Yeah, like whenever I am at an event, and this is a different deal. It's a state-sanctioned, like, actual qualifier, trying to play in the state am. But whenever I'm at any event, like it's a scramble or like you're there to win, I'm reminded of the levels of golf bro that are out there. And I never want to be top-level golf bro. Those guys are very unlikable people, for the most part.
I want there to be non-serious golf bros who are really good at golf but don't take it serious. And I don't know if those exist.
See, that's what I want to be.
Yeah,
I'd like to. And look, my index is 7.4. I'm a fine player.
Yeah,
but I don't ever want to be the guy that doesn't try stuff. I just want to be the guy that's not afraid to try stuff. Right?
What hat did you wear?
My black roan hat.
Yeah,
you have to.
But what were most people wearing, like golf sponsored hats?
Yeah. I like new golf things that I don't even know about.
Yeah,
and then you got the classic, what's the brand everybody wears these days? No, it's not. You got Titleist pros, but you got a lot of like Travis Matthew.
Okay.
You got a lot of like tight fitting.
I was going to say the pants are probably pretty tight.
The shorts these days, dude. The shorts these days. And the other thing is, I'm a 48-year-old man.
Yeah.
This is a young man's thing. The tournament, like I played with a 26-year-old BYU bro. Shout out to my guy Cameron. And a 37-year-old Levi who went to Jordan, went to the U. And look, they're hitting it 30, 40 yards past me because I'm an old man.
Yeah.
So just to try to keep up. But if you think you are good because you roll up to Bonneville on a Saturday at 11:30 and you're able to card a 76, which I've done before, go play in a tournament like this where there are rules officials on every hole and you have to follow every single rule. And if you don't, you are dinged. Shot a 94. I grinded to a 94.
Lafferty, Daniel, and
Gilmore. Happy. Mr. Gilmore, I'm your caddy.
Listen, though, I mean, you get credit for putting yourself in the arena, man.
I appreciate that.
I mean, that takes guts, especially in that sport. I don't know how you do it. Like, in a team sport, you can lift each other up. You can make mistakes. You can pick a buddy up. But, man, there doesn't seem anything more lonely than having a crappy golf day.
Lonely is the perfect adjective. Yeah. Because I don't know all this sport has so many wild rules that I just don't know about because I didn't play. I started playing 5 years ago. I didn't play growing up.
It's funny to me that you are always trying to get me to go golf, where all these rules are always in. You know me, man. I also can't be painted into a corner.
Oh, I would never try.
I cannot. Listen, could you imagine if I showed up doing my usual thing?
I would love that so much.
Like how many old men would just be like having arrhythmia? They would just be so stressed out.
But you know how you've played golf with me.
Yeah.
I'm there to have a good time.
You are.
I'm there to be outside with my buddies.
But you also have that old Bountiful Braves competitive streak.
Yeah, I want to be good at things.
Some big Dave stuff.
I want to be good at things. Yeah. And look, I'll tell you one story, then we'll move on because nobody gives a rip.
I mean, clearly the guy at the stoplight did. So
shout out to my guy at the stoplight. So again, rules that I don't know about. There are different types of. There's a red stake that's out of bounds. There's a white stake that's this or whatever. if you hit your drive, so I'm on the tee box. I'm hitting my driver. Okay, par 4. Shank my drive, slice it right, but think it's safe. And I drive up, and we're looking for the ball. We can't find it. And because it's not a red stake, what I have to do is drive all the way back to the tee box and hit a drive again. So I drive all the way back, hit a drive again. This time, hook it left, and think, oh, no, I think I'm safe. Drive up, look for it, can't find it.
Dude, this is mental shaming. This is like when I would go to church as a kid and they would make those poor kids redo the sacrament thing because they got one word wrong. What are we doing here?
Also an experience I've had in my life.
Let the boy hit the shot.
You got to look over to the bishop and he gives you the thumbs down. You're like, I got to do this again?
And as soon as I saw it, I was like, wow, this is intense.
Drive back.
Yeah.
Drive 3.
Woo.
Slice it right again. Think I'm safe. Drive up. Nope. Out of bounds again. Can't find it. Drive back. Drive number 4. There are 3 groups now waiting behind me. Bro.
This is where you should have just been the caddy from Happy Gilmore where he gets mad and picks it up and just throws the rock in the water and just be like, I'll take an L on this hole.
So at this point, we're talking M&M, mom spaghetti, shaking already, all the things, dude. I'm hearing like lose yourself in the background in my mind.
Yeah.
Like this is your last chance. If I don't hit this in play, I am driving home immediately.
I would have supported you.
Finally hit that one down the fairway. I had to card a 10 on a par 4 and then a 9 on the next hole because I lost my first drive, hit my second drive into the fairway, but shanked an iron left, lost that ball. Your boy 3 putts, 10 and a 9 back-to-back par 4s. You're essentially done there. Okay, so that's
game.
That's 11 extra strokes. And the rest of the way, I actually, so for a moment, I'm like, I'm out. This is so dumb. But that was hole 3 and 4, and your boy made it through 18 and carded a 94 and played okay the rest of the way.
Isn't it such a fascinating peek into what actual professionals have to deal with?
Oh, dude.
And couple that with the fact that they're all elite athletes. And I guess you really do have to figure out, especially in golf. I mean, we're talking about the ultimate me versus me sport.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do it. I mean, I don't think I would have had a 10-stroke hole on a par 4. I probably would have had an 8 or 9, but.
No, I mean, I can't be at your level. I mean, look, ultimately, it's a really cool experience because it does get your competitive juices flowing. And then you also, all these guys are sticks, man. I think I'm good because I go beat Trey on a Saturday and embarrass him.
Yeah.
These are some of the best golfers in the state. And you see what that looks like. You're like, oh, okay. If you think you're good, you see what really good players look like. It's like when I played basketball. I thought I was awesome until I played against Andre Miller. It's okay, well, that's a different deal.
Correct. It's also I think about that all the time. The ladder. I call it I call it the ladder. In my co-ed soccer league on Monday night, we'll go up against some high school kids who are amazing. But then you think about soccer at a global scale, and you're like, oh, then there's going to be someone much better than that person who also lives in Utah. And then there's going to be pros in Utah. And then there's going to be pros at the an international level. And then you just keep going up, and you're like, man, what a trip.
Yeah.
Human beings.
I like the term ladder. Back in the day, I used to get into some 24-hour fitness hoop runs, right? And a lot of the old college guys that went overseas and then were just retired would come back and play in their 30s and 40s. And you overhear conversations from pretty high-level basketball players about what they could be able to do if they had a chance to play against NBA players and just give me a shot, give me a 10-day. And I remember telling Dennis Lindsay the story, and I'll leave the name off air because he's actually a college player that people would know. And he did play overseas. He came back, got in some of these runs. And I used to kind of overhear him telling his buddies, I watch NBA basketball, and I'm as good as those guys.
I just need one shot, man.
And Dennis is like, dude, he wouldn't get a shot off in the NBA. The levels of this, and when you think you're good, then you see what pros look like. It's always a really eye-opening thing.
But what, to me, the interesting kind of dissection of this, though, is how some guys actually kick that narrative. Sam Merrills. Lots of guys who are I don't know if Sam's quick enough coming out of Utah State. I don't know. He can't be a point guard. Here's Sammy in a game 7 hitting 7 threes.
Yeah.
So it's I do think there are
both worlds exist. I do think those guys simultaneously might not be able to cut it.
Yeah.
But then you never really know.
Yeah, and it's always fascinated me. Like, I watch T.J. McConnell play basketball. I'm like, the gall of that dude.
Yeah.
The nerve of that guy to believe that he can do what he's actually doing. Floaters, sneaky, search dribbles.
Yeah.
Right? And
pests.
Yeah, and hanging in physically.
Yeah.
Where, like, what gives you the nerve to believe? Like,
how dare you, T.J. McConnell?
Exactly. Well said. What is this delusional level of self-confidence you have to believe that you can do things?
You're setting the rest of us up for failure,
Yeah,
man.
exactly. So, look, bottom line, then we'll move on. Nobody cares.
Good.
I just wanted to try it.
It's great, man.
I just wanted to put myself out there, and now I know I got a little work to do.
Were there fans there? Like fans of players?
Yeah, depending on the hole.
That stuff freaks me out.
Yeah, and then rules officials driving around watching you you've got to drop below your knee, and if you don't, like...
Hey, where are you going with those clubs, punk?
Oh, man. There were some caddies, there were guys that are taking it. Look, again, the golf bro scene. Porter has heard this story before. I think it was like 2 years ago. I'm just on the putting green at Mountaindale, just warming up or getting ready to play. And there's this group of golf bros on the side, and they're talking about, this, that, their new equipment.
Lies.
The golf trips coming up. And all of a sudden, one of them walks off the driving range, and I'm putting, and I hear him say to his buddy, "Hey, Mash, bad news. Daddy's driver's red hot."
Ooh.
I had to stop putting, and I had to turn around to get a look at this dude.
What's more unforgiving? The nickname Mash?
Calls
or Daddy's driver?
That's the thing.
Everyone's guilty.
His buddy's nickname is Mash, refers to himself as Daddy, then refers to his driver as Red Hot. I don't want to be that guy. I do not want to be.
I think I would be a good caddy for what it's worth.
You would be a phenomenal caddy. The problem is you don't know the rules.
Well, that's not true. I know. I mean, I can do that thing that you guys have.
It's a rangefinder.
Yeah.
For our listeners that didn't see Chris, he just did if you're on YouTube, Chris just pretending like he held up a rangefinder to his eye. Look, bottom line, it was fun, and I think I'm going to do it again.
You should.
Yeah, why not?
You only live once.
I'm getting old.
Yeah, according to some.
Well, I'm getting old. I'm single. I have time on my hands. I might as well try to be good at something.
I mean, you're good at something. You just have to be good at one thing, and I think you've accomplished that. And then everything else is butter, man.
Yeah, everything else is
on the top.
Yeah,
You're
indeed.
good.
We'll save the college football conversation for next segment now that we've killed a good 15, 20 minutes here.
Stellar.
So let's just do a little RSL while we're in the space. World Cup, the roster is a week from today.
Yep.
Or something like that. It's May the 26th.
Yeah, 26th.
Yeah, a week from today. So there's an article up on ESPN.com ranking the top 50 players in the U.S. men's national team pool. Diego's not on it.
I think the Diego thing is going to be really interesting to me because I know that he's a Poch guy. Poch loves him. But at the same time, I do think it is concerning that, this guy who had a breakout year both for club and country last year showed up to camp out of shape.
Yeah.
And granted that slowed his preseason. I know he got pretty sick for a while too. But I mean, muscle tightness was the story from Saturday, right? He was held out. And, now we're to the point where it's like, yeah, if he's feeling something, it makes sense because you want to give him a shot to be on the team. I think you could make an argument that the 21 to 22 guys are already locked in.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the next 3 to 4 guys, 3 to 4 to 5 guys that it's a coin flip.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Diego stands on that list.
I wonder what you think about the decision-making process for Diego not to play on Saturday, because my understanding is it's not serious. They've got one more game coming up this weekend. It's Minnesota on the road. Shout out Cam Knowles.
Ooh, your guy.
Head coach of Minnesota, former RSL center back. At this stage in the game, and I honestly don't know, I'm asking to see if you have insight. At this stage in the game, Diego expected to play Saturday, Colorado, picks up something at some point, I don't know when. How much of the decision, do you think Jason calls the national team director and is like, hey, we think he probably could go, but if you're going to put them on the roster, we want to keep them on ice and healthy. Do you think what do you think goes into that?
I don't think so. I mean, honestly, like I would assume that these decisions are still being made because you're still seeing players that are in the mix playing games.
Yeah, it's true.
Nationally and internationally. So I would assume that like RSL doesn't feel beholden to the national team to keep them in the loop in terms of like minor stuff like that.
Yeah.
He looked really good against Houston when he came on, but again, like you're to the point now where it's RSL's kind of in a good spot. It's crazy to say I don't think they necessarily needed Diego, but they kind of did. Colorado was better for most of the first half on Saturday, but you don't want it to turn into a long-term thing because like you're seeing now guys, really prominent players on prominent international teams missing the World Cup because of injuries they've suffered in the last month. Yeah,
and it's such a cruel thing because this is for a lot of guys. They have one opportunity. Shout out Eminem. They have one opportunity for one World Cup window. And look, Diego's young; he'll have more opportunities. But there are so many soccer players that get like one World Cup window as a shot in their prime, and you're one hamstring away from having a life-changing opportunity snatched right from underneath
Rolled
you.
ankle.
Yeah.
I mean, like freak stuff, and it happens. I mean, some of these, like I said, some of these really talented international teams are going to be without starters or rotational players because, they got hurt at the club level, either in training or in games, and it is wild to think that like, and this is not specific to soccer, but we're talking about. You're still having games. I mean, the Champions League final is on May 30th.
Yeah.
And the World Cup starts 2 weeks later in Mexico City. So it's like the turnaround time is absurd.
And, of course, there are a ton of players in that, like maybe most of the players in the final are thought to be World Cup players, right?
Without a doubt.
So you're again. And look, a Champions League final trophy might be second only to the World Cup trophy. Is that fair?
Okay.
Yep. Oh, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most competitive, club tournament in the world. It's viewed with such prestige. It's such a big deal for you finish top 4. It's such a big deal for like the non-Giants to make it. Even in the mix, just to have a shot. And you never know what's going to happen. And like from a national team perspective, it's such a big deal because so many of these young players that have gone overseas have Champions League experience to bring with them to the national team.
So RSL beats Colorado. At times, I'll just kind of be tongue-in-cheek about the Rocky Mountain Cup. But, it is a trophy. They are the rival. I thought for a minute maybe the Galaxy would be the rival because of the Cup stuff. Maybe Seattle because it felt like we were playing them a ton.
Because of the Robbie Finley trade.
You'll get my blood boiling there, bud. Shout out Luke Kremelmeyer. Who did it? No.
Chris Klein.
For Chris Klein and was it
Sturgis.
For Finley.
That's it. I think that was just the deal.
I feel like there was another. Anyway, no one gives a rip about the Robbie Finley trade. Shout out to Robbie.
MLS Cup champion.
Indeed. And World Cup player.
Yeah, starter.
Indeed. May have not been the right call, but ultimately this is the rival, okay? Rocky Mountain Cup. As you think about this Rocky Mountain Cup history over the years, as someone who covered the team back in the day, I don't want to get your blood boiling. And JP, turn the radio down.
No, turn it up.
Because we call them the Crapids around here.
Okay.
What are some things that come to mind? Dunny's goal?
Well, I mean, no.
Planting the flag?
No, dude. You know this. It's not even like it's the easiest answer that you've ever asked me.
Bring it.
It's your dad and Pablo. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, when has that ever happened? I mean, Larry Miller, bless his soul, wouldn't even really wouldn't get into it with players the way your dad did with Pablo. I mean,
yeah, Larry got into it with a fan once, a Nuggets fan, if I remember.
But the photo in the desert, I mean, epic, dude.
Yeah.
Big Dave just towering over your guy.
Yeah. Now he's my guy.
6'5" Dave.
There's a lot of irony that Pablo's the coach. Were you there? Were you at that game?
I was at that game, yeah.
What do you remember?
I remember, like, this was back when, I was a student at the U. It was even before I started working at the Cronny. We lived one street down, so we would just walk up and buy tickets there and sit wherever we wanted.
Yeah.
And I just remember at full time, Pablo just waving the jersey over his head and sticking it in his shorts. Ironically, my buddy got arrested that night for trying to get into it with some Colorado Rapids fans.
Can we give your buddy a shout out?
No, because he's a big deal now.
Okay. Is it Falk?
No. I wish.
So you're watching the game, and so Pablo does the thing, and then you look over, and they're like nose to nose.
Well, no. So the thing with Big Dave and Pablo happened in the tunnel. We didn't know about that till like the next day. In I think James Edward for the Deseret News reported it.
Oh, okay.
That was a big deal.
Yeah, that was.
We didn't see that from a fan perspective.
Okay, yeah, that was surreal, because I was walking up the stairs, and at Rice Echo Stadium, if you're in the stairway.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get reception on your phone. So I walk up the stairs to the
Your
floor.
Your Razor had no reception. Your Motorola Razor had no reception. The gray one probably. Not the blue.
I think I had a what was like the first one that looked like an actual little computer?
Oh, the BlackBerry?
I think I had a BlackBerry back then, if I remember correctly. And I never used it for anything other than making calls. But I had
send emails.
I did not.
Okay.
Should have. So I walk out the door to start the post-game show on the radio, and I see that I have like 15 missed calls. And my buddy Will, his call gets through, and he's like, hey, your dad's in a fight with a player downstairs. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, he was.
And then sure enough, there you go.
Was that one of those moments where you had to dad your dad a little bit? Do you remember?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. You know what's interesting? The peacemaker of that entire thing, Clint Mathis.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Kyle Beckerman, but
no, it wasn't Kyle, because Kyle was playing with Colorado,
right.
And I think Clint was also with Colorado because this was before we traded for him.
Yeah, well, Clint was on the roster when this happened.
Yeah,
I think I saw an interview with Clint recently, and our guys looking like he's lived a great life.
Yeah, and he has
mustache.
Yeah, for sure.
After it.
Yeah,
Clint Mathis should be on the drive. I'm just saying during this World Cup. It would be a good poll.
We'll get Clint on. I've got his cell phone still. But when cooler heads prevail and the cooler head is Clint Mathis, you know it's quite a group.
I don't think. I mean, like if you're a millennial or Gen X U.S. men's national team fan, Clint Mathis was kind of like the Rodman of like the men's national team. But he was very good. I mean, he had a great career in Europe and he got after it.
Hanover, shout out.
Hanover 96.
Hanover 96. All right, we'll catch a break. CK is live in studio. Coming up next, the athletic director at Iowa State with some interesting comments today. The SCORE Act has been pulled from the floor, so a bunch of interesting college football storylines have kind of emerged over the past 24 hours. We'll get into some college football with CK. So keep it right here on ESPN 700. Is this another Matchbox 20 song? I thought we were moving away. We're just going to jam it all day?
Why wouldn't you?
How many Matchbox 20 songs do you know?
I know 3.
Do you know this one?
Oh, yeah.
I do not know this one.
Yeah, I'm just a little unwell.
I know the 3 a.m.
Yeah.
We already did that one.
Yeah. I'm not crazy. I'm just a little unwell.
I have heard this song
You
before.
have.
Yeah, you have.
We don't know the names
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
songs. We just know the
Yes.
the bridge.
Yeah. Wait. The one you did with Santana.
Oh, Maria.
No.
Yeah? No?
That's what it's called?
Is it Porter?
The Rob Thomas Santana joint.
There it go.
What's it called?
Am I right?
I don't know. I know what you're talking about, though.
Okay.
You guys are killing me. Gonna make me do some research on the drive.
They may have done more than one song together.
Well, there was like one big hit. One big like Rob Thomas Santana hit back in the day. I do not
Smooth.
Smooth.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Good call. All right, CK. Been a random like kind of busy news cycle in the world of college football. So, of course, as you and I have discussed for years, the inevitability, well, it feels like an inevitability that at some point the Big Ten and the SEC are going to break away from the rest of the college football ecosystem. And some strong comments today from Jamie Pollard, who's the Iowa State athletic director. And he's just saying we should break away from them.
He's calling their bluff.
He's calling their bluff. And also the interesting thing is that, so here's the quote. I said it 3 years ago, let them break away. I would turn it around and say we should break away from them. Let them go, but you have to go in all their sports and see how fun it is to play baseball and softball and track when it's just the 20 of you. So his whole thing is like, all right, Big Ten and SEC, go ahead and break away, but we're not allowing it to be just football. If you're going to break away, then you got to take all your sports with you. And we'll just do Big 12, ACC, whoever else is left over. So what do you make of that approach? Because most people believe the Big 12 has to be desperate to hang on to those other two conferences and be a part of whatever they want to do, or as many teams in the Big 12 jump and then join this perceived super conference league.
I mean, if you're Jamie Pollard, I mean, he's calling their bluff, and he makes a point. If we are really going to try to involve the other non-revenue sports that make up college athletics, he is right in that, like, are you going to call yourself a national champion of softball if you're only playing, 14 other teams in the Big Ten and whatever it is in the SEC? I don't think that's necessarily a bad take to have. The problem is, and we've said this on the show ad nauseum for years, it's like everyone's just out for themselves, and until like people are willing to go to a negotiating table and relinquish some power, you're just going to have this fraying that just continues to permeate and gradually, I mean, granted it's been slow and gradual, but now what we're talking about with this 2014 playoff, it's hard to predict what it's all going to look like in a couple of years, but people really need to get to the negotiating table and kind of just hammer this stuff out.
Well, the other thing that's taking place right now is the Big Ten is having meetings this week in some location where they're trying to curtail what they perceive to be out of control spending. And here, I mean, look, here's where I think
you see the place.
Was it who sent out that tweet?
I think Stu did.
Was it Stu?
Yeah, it's like Palos Verdes, and it's like $2,500 a night.
So the irony of curtail spending while you're spending that type of money, having your meetings. So what I perceive to be the biggest danger, and the issue here is the people in charge of college athletics have been failing for decades to see around corners to get ahead of things. So the dynamic now is we're moving towards this potential reality where people are estimating that in 4 or 5 years we're going to be spending $80 to $90 million on players, like rosters who are going to be costing $80 to $90 million. The example that I'll use recently that we talked about is Michigan is parlaying this investment into some AI platform into what's perceived to be a $5 billion windfall. And they've announced they're going to spend $500 million of that $5 billion on their athletic department. If you don't have something in place, a salary cap is the term I'll use just for the sake of the conversation. to send a message to college football programs like, no, you can't spend above this, then you're one investment or big donor away from running away from everybody else. If there are no rules about how much you can spend, like, it sounds so simple to say. That to me is the biggest danger as far as, schools separated themselves from. This is not even an SEC and a Big Ten thing. This is per school thing. If Michigan is able to parlay one massive investment to allocate $500 million to sports, and there's nothing in place or nobody to say, well, wait a second, you can't spend that much money on sports, we might be in a situation where there are 4 to 5 schools that get all the players because they can afford everybody.
There's no even aprons. We haven't even talked about the aprons.
Right.
There need to be some aprons in place. I kid, kind of, if I knew what the aprons were in the NBA.
No, I mean it's, again, basic salary cap structure.
I think the powers that be in college football were never going to follow all of these rules because they're not really rules. They're more guidelines. And clearly, since the sport and college athletics has been flipped on its head in the last 5 to 6 years, nobody's following the rules. So why would you expect anybody to want to do that now, especially in an environment when you basically control how competitive you want to be? The competitive advantage rests with each institution. And like you said, if there are schools that are going to be able to tap into endless wells of resources, they're just going to do it, because what repercussions are they going to face? There are no repercussions.
None. Zero. Yeah.
So it's like, again, if you're thinking about this logically, and I'm not saying that this is how it should be, but of course the Big Ten and SEC are not going to relinquish any sort of power or come to the negotiating table and be willing to sacrifice some stuff, because they don't need to right now, because nobody's holding their feet to the fire and telling them to.
Who actually, who's running the thing?
Nobody, man. Donors, boosters.
But, is it conference per conference where it's like the conference commissioners, like Yormark is in charge of the Big 12 and Petiti? Is that all it is?
I mean, basically. Yeah. But then, you also have, I think this is right, but I'm pretty sure the school presidents elect or hire these commissioners of these conferences.
Mm.
So everybody is going to naturally be in lockstep with each other because they want to be able to strengthen their gold pot.
So is it essentially that the commissioners work for the schools?
Basically.
Okay. So it's not unlike Goodell working for NFL owners.
Yeah. How about that?
Well, I feel like all of this is just leading back to the road where I feel like we've all, already should have leaned into, and that is just collective bargaining and lean into a pro model. It basically is that anyway.
I'm amazed that this thing has managed to stay on the tracks, because it's so willy-nilly. Everybody is operating so differently that it's I just wonder sooner or later, is it going to come to a screeching, grinding halt? I don't know. I hope not, but they just have to figure it out, man. And we've been saying this for how many years? But again, this is the reality that we exist in, and people who have power are always going to hold on to it no matter what, because it doesn't benefit them to relinquish any of it.
So as far as I understand it, and these rumors have really started to steamroll over the past 24 to 48 hours, I don't know what the governing body would look like, but if the Big Ten and the SEC do break away, they're going to insist that this is a football-only thing. Like that.
Oh, I would assume so.
Do they have enough power to make that happen?
I think so.
But what if the other schools won't schedule their other sports?
The Big 12s, the ACCs.
Yeah. What if it's okay, then we're not going to play you in basketball. We're not going to play you in baseball. We're not going to play you in. We will not schedule you in other sports if you take your football programs and create your own thing.
Well, if we're talking about this hypothetical scenario, we kind of have to wait and see until they do it, because if they kind of would have to, because otherwise I think the SEC and Big Ten would just be banking on them just kind of tucking their tail between their legs and just being, okay, we'll keep partnering with you for these games because we know they'll make us money, even though if we're talking about non-revenue generating sports, it wouldn't be that much money. But then again, if this is the case, then you're really just showing everyone your true colors, in that like this is not what it's always been about. And I'm not saying the model was broken a long time ago. Like the NCAA failed to act for decades, and we got here for a reason. But if you're going to bottom line it the way this could be bottom lined, it's just going to feel kind of icky, man. It's going to feel gross.
Well, the College Sports Commission, right, it created after the NCAA versus House settlement last summer. I mean, that theoretically is supposed to be at least a governing body that is tasked with curtailing what NIL looks like and
holding people accountable
and reviewing each NIL deal. And they do oversee the system, according to Dellinger, that allows schools to share revenue from the House settlement directly with student athletes. That ensures that NIL deals made with student athletes are fair and comply with the rules. And it's supposed to facilitate, quote, more opportunities for student athletes that benefit from their participation in intercollegiate athletics that will bring much needed stability and structure to college sports. Is this a deal where they're only tasked with the financial fallout of the current state of college football? Because I don't know that the College Sports Commission would have any influence on the Big Ten of the SEC creating their own version of the sport. Yeah,
I think that's very specific to one tentacle of this whole very confusing octopus.
There's so many other things that are.
You try to wrap your head around it, you just get a migraine.
Well, but if you've created one governing body to oversee the financial dynamic of the current state of college athletics, why can't you just create one governing body that, I know theoretically it's supposed to be the NCAA, but they've been thrown out of the Supreme Court and told you are an antitrust violator, go figure it out. And also, as a result of the court rulings, they can't even enforce anything.
Yeah.
So theoretically, it's supposed to be the NCAA, but if you can create one governing body to oversee the financial portion of it, why not just create one governing body to oversee the entire sport? I'm just talking about college football specifically.
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that the people who hold all the power, and I'm going to keep banging this drum, it's like it doesn't benefit them to let the little kids sit at the big kid table right now. I disagree with that line of thought and that reality, but it's almost like, what can you do about it? You can't really do anything about it until somebody twists your arm, and I don't know who's going to twist their arm.
So Brendan Sorsby has hired Jeffrey Kessler, who is basically the most powerful attorney in sports, like the sports ecosystem, not just college athletics. And they're filing an injunction to try to force the decision from the NCAA so he can figure out his future. He requested an expedited decision from the NCAA, and on Monday requested an injunction in a lawsuit against the NCAA to be eligible to play in the 2026 season. I'm not exactly sure why they're playing it like this, because I just don't know, based off of precedent, based off of how serious every sport takes players and coaches gambling on the product, that they could make the decision now or later. I don't see a pathway for him to play.
I don't either. I think this is just such a markedly different lawsuit compared to some of these other ones that we've seen in recent months, like Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss, or Joey Aguilar at Tennessee, or Chandler Morris at Virginia. Like these are players that were suing the NCAA looking for eligibility because of various injuries at their previous schools, or because they came from the JC level and it was confusing at the time that what officially counted towards your eligibility officially. This is a totally different beast. And I think, like you said, this is kind of he's kind of persona non grata when it comes to this. And I saw that, Tech came out and supported him and said that they want him reinstated. I saw that some of his, arguments in some of the affidavits were like, I did it to get closer to my team.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I don't know, man. We've also seen reports that he was like betting on like Romanian soccer and some of this other stuff. And I'm like, I hope he gets, he needs to get help, but like, this was always going to play out the way it's playing out, but I just don't see how it's going to hold up.
Here's the quote from Brendan Sorsby, quote, to CK's point about betting on Indiana when he was a member of the program in 2022. Quote, I rationalized placing those bets as a way to feel more connected to the team, to root for my friends, and to feel like I had a real stake in the games I was otherwise not involved in. I mean, this is clearly coming from Kessler. It's clearly coming from his legal team.
Right.
But who's buying that?
I would guess nobody. But who knows? The one really interesting byproduct of all of these lawsuits is that they're all coming in small markets, Spence, that are college towns.
Mm-hmm.
And these teams are always going to, file these injunctions at the state level versus the federal level because they know they're going to be heard in the same area that they live.
Yeah.
Trinidad Chambliss had his injunction heard in Oxford. Joey Aguilar's in Knoxville. Like, now I think, I know Sorsby's is going to be in Lubbock. A lot of these judges actually end up going to these, have gone to these schools. They're alumni.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, like, this is part of the legal system. But like I said, this is a totally different beast compared to some of these other lawsuits that we've seen in recent months.
The other quote-unquote excuse that Brendan Sorsby is presenting, and this was the injunction, this is from the injunction that was filed on Monday. The filing states Sorsby suffers from a, quote, clinically diagnosed gambling disorder, which is a, quote, mental health condition. Now, I want to be sensitive here because, we can get into the whole, like, addiction as a disease model type thing and mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly that is more prevalent now than it was when I was growing up. As far as when I was growing up, you woke up, you have anxiety, you're still going to school, okay? And now, for better or for worse, and I think there's an intriguing argument to be made that it's better for people to be able to express themselves about how they're feeling.
Agreed.
Using mental health in this case, saying that he just couldn't stop gambling, how far away are we, like, when it comes to the layers of what you can't stop doing? I mean, gambling, as far as what we know about brain chemistry, does provide the same dopamine hit as putting a needle in your arm and shooting heroin into yourself. When you win a sports bet, that's your dopamine hit. It does appear to be a decent legal play, right? I mean, if that's what they're trying to do to get the kid to play.
Well, I mean, clearly, if you've been following this story, you've been reading the reports. Yes, he had an addiction. He has an addiction issue. It's why he entered voluntarily a treatment center.
Yeah.
So that is absolutely part of the play here. But we have to talk about what transpired already, not what hasn't transpired in the future. Like let's hope that Brendan is able to, quell these very difficult urges when it comes to gambling. But he still bet on games when he was on a team.
Yeah.
And I think, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like regardless of the outcome, whether you're betting for your team to win or lose, that's irrelevant. I think that's kind of the ultimate sin when it comes to players gambling and having been caught gambling. So this is going to be, we're going to see more of these, man. There's no way that we're not going to see more of these cases. It's just the reality of Brendan Sorsby having the platform and the profile of being a pretty good quarterback at a team that is considered to be a playoff caliber team in 2026.
Yeah. The ACC spring meetings took place. And by the way, is On3 McMurphy's deal?
What do you mean? Brett McMurphy does work for On3, yeah.
Is that a credible college?
Yeah.
Okay,
it is.
All right.
Yeah, my guy Ari Wasserman works there. Andy Staples is there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So they're kind of the owner of the old school 247 Rivals, created On3 a few years ago.
I see.
Hired a bunch of talented people.
Okay, I see. Because a lot of conversation about Notre Dame kind of taking advantage of the ACC without any consequence. And one of the things McMurphy, and you guys have talked about this at The Athletic, like last year Notre Dame declined the bowl invitation, and it was an ACC-affiliated bowl. At some point, are they going to be forced to join a conference at some point to follow the rules that everyone else in college football has to follow?
I don't know, man. I think they have the luxury of being one of one, and I think they'll eventually be able to pick and choose where they want to go as the dominoes start to fall. But I don't know, honestly. Like, if we're operating in a theoretical reality of what, if we're talking about a Super League, is there any way Notre Dame gets left out because they're an independent? No way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be in, and if they're eventually forced to join a P4 a P4 conference at the full-time level, they'll join. They hold all the cards.
They're probably the only team in America that could do this, right?
Easily.
Yeah. At least on this level.
Brand power.
BYU tried.
Yeah, no, the brand power, the reach, it's a totally different level.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at some point, if you're not forced to follow the rules, and it's their TV deal at the end of the day that allows them, right? I mean, it's not just the Notre Dame brand; it's the
media rights deal with NBC,
yeah,
sure, and just they call the shots, man.
Yeah.
And again, college athletics, college football specifically, is just such an interesting, unregulated monster that people are able to do this because they've been able to do it for a very long time.
Is it just a scenario kind of like the NBA says, for all the belly aching, for all the conversation, the media deals are still very lucrative, and
they're still
show
making
up,
money.
You still show up on Saturday in the fall.
The NBA, for example, I'm sure they're hemorrhaging, Gen X and millennial fans, but they're still growing their product internationally, and people are watching hoop highlights or whatever the thing you talk about all the time.
House of Highlights.
House of Hoop Highlights.
There you go.
Yeah, it is set up to continue, but at what cost? I would say at what moral cost? That's what I would say.
The NBA has unapologetically leaned into very young fans. Like, is it Gen Z? So it's millennial, then Gen Z,
then Gen Alpha.
Real thing?
My son's Gen Alpha.
Your son's like 3.
He's got a Gen.
They already have the Gen for the 3-year-olds?
Yeah, don't take that from him.
Well, I thought you wait until later on to be assigned to Gen.
I'm pretty sure.
Hey, look, hey, I'm Seinfelding it. Yeah. Okay, my hands are up. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Let's not go there. I didn't realize that a Gen had been assigned to toddlers.
Yeah. Well, just
that sounded weird as well.
It starts and ends with years.
Okay. Do you know what the range is?
I don't, but I know that he's an alpha.
Okay.
And
well, I bet
you have the coolest one, so you
can
take your victory laps.
I do. Gen
we have
X.
the lamest one.
You do.
Easily.
True. I appreciate the self-awareness.
Listen, if anything, I'm self-aware.
You are. Gen X number 1, millennial at the bottom.
I would think so.
Yeah. Are you uncomfortable raising an alpha?
Well, we'll have to come back to that.
What's the update on the con?
Well, Porter's our AlphaCon reporter.
Porter, what's the update on the return of the con?
Good question.
Okay.
I might have to dig into that.
They're going to get the bull on a Zoom.
I was going to say, I think the organizer is got some other things to take care of at the moment.
Yeah.
Big Zoom on a big screen somewhere.
I'm surprised he's the only one, quite frankly.
I don't think he is, actually.
Yeah, I think Porter's right.
Really? Let's dig into that. Because once they bring the AlphaCon back, the Alpha Chode Con back, you will be on assignment.
I didn't say it.
I did. Dude, these guys are the worst. You will be on assignment downtown, and I want live updates on the air about the Chodes addressing the group.
I don't know if you want to send me there. All it takes is for me to listen to 15 minutes of the Joe Rogan Experience to totally shift my views. So it might be a dangerous.
That's true.
It might be a
very impressionable man, that Porter Larson.
Porter, just remember, beta males are the real pandemic.
Well, I know that.
Okay.
Obviously.
Okay. All right, Chris.
Clearly.
This was great.
This was awesome.
Yeah.
It always is. It's good to see you.
Get a 5-wood.
All right. Chris Camerati stops by today courtesy of IFA Country Stores. There's nothing like taking in a game on a sunny afternoon. You can get your field ready this summer with IFA's 4+ lawn care program. It's a blend especially formulated for Utah soils. Get healthy, lush, dark green grass this summer by making your power move today at IFA. We'll catch a break. Neil Syka from Apple TV joins us. We're going to bring in Quentin Richardson for some NBA playoffs. We got a busy Tuesday show, and it's good to have you with us right here on ESPN 700. Game one in the Eastern Conference tonight between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. You can hear that game on our radio station when we say goodnight at 6 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. Quentin Richardson, former Knick, will join us in the 4 o'clock hour of the program today to break down last night's NBA game. And we will look ahead to Knicks Cavs with Q Rich. RSL with a win over Colorado. The team is playing really, really well. One more game prior to the World Cup break. It is going to be at Minnesota. Our next guest will be on that call, Neil Sika from MLS Apple Television. Hello, Neil. How are you, sir?
Spence, I'm great. Of course, we could pivot being a Cleveland guy, and I could give you the Cavs perspective in Game 1 tonight.
I would actually love that because we've got plenty of time to get to soccer. And you've got our guy Donovan Mitchell on your roster. After 9 years, he's finally going to a conference finals.
That's right. And the ability for him to kind of create outside of just the heavy scoring in Game 7, I think, opened up a lot of things. But the series, in my opinion, will come down to whether Mobley handles Karl Anthony Towns and they get him out of that point guard role. And then I think Jared Allen will play a bigger role against the bigs for New York because they got so many slashing guys. Then I'm looking forward to the series. I wouldn't count the Cavs out, but they've been kind of this herky-jerky through the playoffs and gotten past these levels where I think a lot of the fan base was thinking, if they don't get to the Eastern Conference Finals, then they're going to blow this whole thing up. But kudos to them for pulling out a couple of Game 7s, and I think it'll be a fun matchup here with the Knicks.
Donovan had a really, really productive 5 years here, and it was kind of heartbreaking to see that group broken up with Rudy and, of course, Quinn Snyder and that entire team. How has he been received in Cleveland, and what are some of the conversations about whether or not he's actually sticking around there?
I think he's been beloved, to be honest with you, and the fact that they've qualified for an Eastern Conference Final without LeBron for the first time since 1992. You go back to the Mark Price, Larry Nance, Brad Daugherty days. That was Larry Bird's last game. They lost to the Bulls. But for him to kind of get over that hurdle, like of not getting out of the second round, right, because it's been this stigma. And, they won the other night, and you wouldn't have thought, the Pistons celebrated Game 6 like they had won the series. But I think there was a measured approach. And I think James Harden's been a big part of that. You can bash the trade, but I think a lot of people did based off of just his playoff history and giving up Garland, but they had to make some sort of a move. And I think it's eased some of the pressure off, or at least deflected some of that when it's come to the highest level in the postseason. And he hasn't been at his best, I would say, Mitchell, but I think ultimately he's had a couple of massive halves and shows that he's still got it in him. But he's been beloved in Cleveland. I think they want him to succeed. He's been nothing but the perfect type of superstar that's come in phase 2 after they were used to this deity, right, of the game playing there for so long. But he's been a wonderful fit, and I think people are excited about what's maybe next. And now that they've gotten over that hurdle of getting to the conference final, then maybe there's more in store for him in Cleveland than opposed to going somewhere else.
Neil, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you don't just call soccer. I feel like you, it's funny because you probably know the deal. Oftentimes in the soccer ecosystem, when you're talking to just a soccer person. I don't feel like I'm talking to just a soccer person.
You are not. You are not. We step into the realm of a lot of different sports, and one of the beauties of my childhood was going to Browns and Cavs and then the Indians games. So to have that kind of fabric and then to have that versatility, I guess, now in the professional life has been a nice feather in the cap, but MLS has carried a long way, so that's also special too.
Give me a taste of the background, how you got into the business, and kind of how you spend your time now.
Yeah, great question. Went to Ohio State. I mentioned my childhood was pretty much filled with going to games as a kid. We had season tickets to all the major Cleveland events. I'm an Ohio State alum. So taking that challenge on and coming in and being a student and doing student radio when they won the national championship in 2002, I'm dating myself a little bit, but just so many great memories in this Rust Belt, blue-collar type area where you have these passionate sports fans. And I think that goes, across the grain when you look at the Midwest. Not that there aren't great sports fans anywhere else, but it was emblazoned in me and my brothers that we wanted kind of a career in sports. We didn't want to go into the optometry practice. Poor dad, who I think wanted to put that upon us to make sure that we were sports fans. And I think that was the ultimate goal, and he succeeded in that. And so my brother actually works in the NFL, and I found my path on the play-by-play trail. But doing a lot of Ohio State events out of that gate, and doing a lot of hockey, and then hockey kind of led to soccer and the soccer path, but then basketball, football, lacrosse, baseball, it's all kind of fallen into form. But the meat and potatoes have been MLS, and the 16-year run I had as the announcer for the Columbus Crew. And I've kind of changed my entire life, really, and now the pathway on the national level with MLS. So it's been a great journey, and I've loved every minute of it. And I've always loved my trips to Salt Lake, too, and calling their games over the last few years, and getting to know Pablo and this latest clan of players that has made for great stories each and every week. So I'm having a blast, and it's great to have the diversity, I guess, in all the other sports, so we can jump on a show like this and completely go rogue and talk NBA playoffs and, just live in the world that we've created for ourselves.
Yeah, I do this 4 hours every day, Neil. So we just essentially get conversational to kill time, better known as filibustering,
Yes. Great setup.
Have you, did you grow up a soccer fan?
To the point where I played like at the Smurf level, and then I kind of lost, I guess, the passion to follow through on it, like so many young kids probably in being in the ecosystem of playing basketball or playing baseball or football. So it never really stuck with me, maybe to the point that it did now, when I had to learn the game essentially from my late high school years into college. And it was the opportunity back in 2004 when MLS is still kind of coming out of, is this league going to completely fold around 2000, right? And there was all that talk about contraction with the teams. And I had a friend at Ohio State who was a massive DC United fan. And we used to have Steve Goff on our radio show, and he was always pumping DC United. So I went to my first Crew game with him. And then little did I know, after I graduated, some of the hockey connections that I had led to a window of opportunity to fill in for Dwight Burgess, who was the club voice and icon for such a long time. And we were partners, and we're still great friends. And that ability to step in, and when you're young in your career, Spence, as you know, you don't really say no to much. So that window to jump back in. But as a casual fan, that kind of was the career path. But as a casual fan, stepping into watching the World Cup in 94 and 98 were really my first strong glimpses of getting into it on an international stage. I don't know if the club level from that internationally really ever followed, because it's not like today where you could just pick up a game and watch it at any point during a given week. You had to really go searching for it, and I was kind of preoccupied in the Browns and all the other professional sports that were going on in Cleveland at the time. But it's been a nice marriage through the years, and it's given me so much. And now I can say I am, but I still wouldn't say that I'm the ultimate, I'm going to get up at 7:30 a.m. and watch a Premier League game type of guy. But I love this league and what it's given to me, and I'll always be invested in it.
We'll continue the theme of non sequiturs. Spencer Fano played his college football out here at the University of Utah, and he's now a Cleveland Brown. Give us an idea of how rabid that fan base is and what Spencer's in for now that he lives in Cleveland.
Yeah, they're just hoping that they can reconstruct just a little bit after having a defense that was unbelievable last year and essentially a lost year without the quarterback piece, which is what everyone's been looking for in the NFL to reach the Holy Grail. And I think the Browns have kind of been chasing their own tail in a lot of ways for so many years since they came back. I think you have the older generation of Browns fan who desires those late 80s teams and the Bernie Kosar years, and it's never quite really been the same since they moved to Baltimore. And even though they've been back, and God bless the Haslams, and I say that in a way because they've spent, and they obviously kept the Columbus Crew in town on a completely different outlier. But the fact is they've tried so hard to win that I think they've gone and maybe overextended it to certain degrees. And I think a lot of the fan base feels that way. They were building, then you think you have something in Baker, it doesn't work out, and then all of a sudden you're chasing and finding Deshaun Watson, and that's been a complete mess. So for the element of passion that this fan base has, no matter what the Cavs have done and what LeBron has done in bringing a title, or even the Indians/Guardians and their great little run in the small market realm of baseball and getting to World Series. It is football first. It is football second. It is football third. And people like to joke there was like 1.3 million at the Cavs 2016 championship parade, and I think you would triple that somehow in some capacity. I don't know how they would get those numbers if the Browns ever won a Super Bowl. And now you have this swell for moving to the suburbs and building this brand new stadium. And I'm kind of giving the background here of a Browns fan who's been through both phases and knowing what the market has called for. But I think now that they feel that they've hit these drafts the last couple of years with some really good college standouts, and based off what they did last year, and Spencer coming in and he can protect whether it's going to be Shedeur Sanders or whether Watson's going to be the starter, is going to be paramount to really where they go, because the offensive side of the ball was the biggest fix in the offseason and finding playmakers. And they feel like they've got a couple of receivers in the draft. So they may surprise. I'm not saying they're going to go out and win 10 and 11 or 11 games, but if they have a phase where they can get to 7 or 8 wins this season, and you've got an all-time defensive player who's, I don't want to say leash is running short, but Myles Garrett. And if you're in position to contend even by as early as next year, that's going to just be such a boom to the community and the city of Cleveland, and to have another winning football product out there in doing it after they've had to recalibrate, thinking they had the right places in order, not just 3-4 years ago.
You're going to love Spencer. He's a great kid and hell of a player. Todd Monken comes in. I like the hire. So, again, we've got a lot of Utah football fans that listen to the station. The stability of that franchise, what is Spencer kind of entering right now when it comes to ownership, management, and coaching?
Well, I think the ownership, the stability is beyond the devotion of wanting to find a winner. I think sometimes people have wondered, what are they doing in terms of the front office? You had Paul DePodesta, and he's a baseball guy, and everyone would point, what is the baseball guy doing? Because he was hardly available for interviews, and then he goes back off now into baseball. So the GM role in building with Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, and now Andrew Berry that was the question. Are you going to trust him with these drafts over the last couple of years? And by and large, he got a mulligan into that because of the way the front office was operating. And then last year, the draft, and what it turned out in terms of their rookie product was, with the likes of Fannin and Carson Schwarzenegger, that, all right, now we're in the window of looking at something that we can build upon in this next draft, and cleaned up again, I think, with a lot of the selections that they've taken here in 2026. I mentioned the stadium. That's the groundswell going forward. It's been a big point of contention. Outdoor football, AFC North. Now you're going into this dome because I think the Haslam's want to be part of big events. But there's no doubt the devotion of finding a winner and making Cleveland a team that can ascend in a division right now where it's been tough to do so because of the likes of Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. But those two franchises in Cincinnati and Baltimore, while Cincinnati's come close, they haven't really gone for the throat. The Steelers are kind of in this window of changing things over, and Rodgers is coming back, and McCarthy. You brought up Todd Monken. I say, well, this guy's got one shot, right, at being an NFL head coach. He's on the tail end. He's not one of these new fresh hires and minds that are grabbing the attention from the quarterback coach perspective or whatever. He's been a long-time coordinator. He's had plenty of success. This guy knows what he wants, and he's going to go out and do the best things possible to win now, because he knows that window is short. And I think everyone was surprised kind of with that hire, because you always want to bring in the up-and-coming prospect who's going to be a coach for the future and win you Super Bowls. But Monken's seen enough of the game that I kind of like the refreshing nature of how he's approached, or what I've heard in the media from him, to go forward and see how he can get this offense going in the right direction. So I think the devotion from there and the ownership is always going to be there. And I think it's more so having the trust of the fans now because of the way you've handled the quarterback situation the last 4 or 5 years. So they build that, they go forward, and we'll see. It'll make for an optimistic year to begin, I think, more so than what people would have thought even a year and a half ago.
Don't know if you heard, but LeBron's a free agent.
Yes, sure is. And that's the question. Is he going to go one more year in LA? Will he come back to Cleveland? I think there's just been so much built upon the fact that the Cavs wanted to make sure they could ascend to a point like they are now in the conference final without having to rely on him. And the guy's still putting up all worldly numbers, but there's so much else that, as you know, probably comes with having a LeBron James on your roster. It would be a wonderful story if he comes back in the final year or the twilight of his career, if he does play another year, and I think he will. But what will he sacrifice to make it work in Cleveland? Because, again, about 48, 72 hours ago, Spence, everyone's thinking if they don't win this Game 7 against Detroit after getting blown off the floor in Game 6, then all the options are up in the air. Coach, Mitchell could be gone. Are you trading and moving around pieces like Mobley for Giannis? Are you going that bold? Now there's talk about, well, James Harden may come back for the next couple of years. So there's a lot to figure out in that realm. And I think as long as if they get to the NBA Finals, they'll say, well, maybe we're content. Maybe we don't need LeBron. But it's also maybe, can he put them over the top again? And can they win one more title? What a story and finale that would be on the career if they could get there. And they were close more than just the one time. I think in 2015, if Kevin Love doesn't have his shoulder separated in Boston, they might win that title against the Warriors too if they won that before the 2016 team. So coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I think that would make for a nice little fairy tale ending to LeBron's career if they can work it out. But I think they've made this wonky progress and made the trade look like it was a good idea in the tail end of it, because you have to consider the season a success now for the Cavs based on the fact that they've gotten to the Eastern Conference final, and everyone wanted to look back at last year and be in the number one seed, and they lose to Indiana. But Indiana was a damn good team, and they've lost their most pivotal player and almost won the NBA title. They were half away from doing so. So I don't think there's any shame in that. I think oftentimes we're looking at the grain of expectations and then the unknown of a team that might come in surprise. So I'm going on a word salad here, but I think if the Cavs can put themselves in a position again where they can add that one more piece and LeBron can be that guy without meddling up, because they've been a second apron team, and getting out of this second apron hell is going to be tough on so many NBA teams if they can find a way to make it work. And Dan Gilbert has been the best owner in Cleveland for a decade now. He'll find a way to do it.
Before I start getting angry texts from Trey, let's.
Why are you not talking Salt Lake? He'll probably say.
Yeah, let's move over and talk a little RSL. Look, it's been a really bright start to the season. It's been a lot of fun. Pablo comes on the show every week. Jason, Kurt, all those guys, and they did an excellent job and they were under a little pressure. The past couple of windows over the past few years have brought some signings that haven't panned out. But so far, almost everyone they've brought in has been really, really good. And they're off to this start now, where after a little bit of a dip, they're now third on the table in the West. They're 8-4-1, 25 points with a game in hand on San Jose, who was surprised everybody. But what do you like most about this RSL team, Neil?
I like that they're going to provide some entertainment for my final game before the World Cup break. I'm excited for this matchup coming up on Saturday. And believe it or not, Spence, 2024, which isn't all that long ago, which was a historic start in a lot of ways in terms of the attack that they had and getting off to a fantastic run. They're ahead of that pace right now. They've got one more win through the 13 games. They've got 3 more goals. And they're doing it essentially with a younger team. And they had to recalibrate a little bit in the off season. So I'm very bullish on what they can do in the second half. The problem now with this young team is you're going to take, and just like everyone who's going to have to go through it, we're talking about the sprint season in MLS next year. This is a sprint season now. And then you're going to have essentially a new preseason because you've got close to 2 months off, and then you step back into the fold. Does that allow LAFC, who's played a ton of games, Seattle, injuries, kind of catch their sea legs and get back up to speed? Because outside of Vancouver, who's in the midst of this long, drawn-out road trip themselves, and San Jose, which was humming, but they're not very deep, and they've lost arguably their 2 best players for injury, including Nico Checketts, who's been a driving force for that. This is why I say there's so much opportunity in the West right now, because I don't think anyone's necessarily grab the bull by the horns. LAFC and Seattle might be set up to do it. So if you're Salt Lake and you end Saturday on a winning note and make sure that you're keeping these guys on the straight and narrow, and Pablo has done a masterful job of that. You go back, even in the interim role in 2021, he's gotten these guys to the playoffs each and every season. Now, they haven't got out of it since 2021, as you and the fan base are well aware of that, getting to the Western Conference Final. But I just love the youthful exuberance and the ability that they've found players that they necessarily didn't think they were going to have to rely on, like a Sergi Solans at the start of the year. And it's paying dividends for them. And there might be a couple more pieces to add in the window that I think could put them within that top 4 spots, which is what you want when it comes down to locking up a home playoff place.
I want to ask you before I say you loose, Neil, about these 2 young stars. And we've known Diego Luna for a while now because he's played some quality soccer for about 3 years. We'll find out the U.S. men's national team roster a week from today. We're hoping that he is on it. But this Xavier Gozo kid, I mean, every week I feel like he does something where all of us are just stunned. And he's an academy kid. He's a local kid. And, both these players may, be sold for quite a nice little profit. But what do you think about these two? And do you think we're going to see him on the team all year long?
I had conversations last year thinking where Luna – they were saying he could be gone after last summer, and especially after the Gold Cup that he had. I think Xavier, for all the qualities, if he somehow makes this World Cup roster, which is a real possibility without any type of a camp or a window, and then goes off and performs pretty well, then who's to say that someone's not going to come in with a $7 to $10 million offer for the kid, maybe even more. I think the tutelage, the perfect thing for both these guys, whether it be Luna, who jumps into kind of a captaincy role at times last year and is the leader of the team in a lot of these games, and now Gozo, is they've got the perfect guy to learn from in Pablo Mastroeni and the requirements it takes, not only to be good for your club, but to be good for your country. We're talking about a guy who started in 4 World Cup games over 2 tournaments, and the commitment and belief that Pablo's put in these young kids, and you can spray it around the roster right now with the success that they've had. But for Gozo, who's kind of the elements, he's even said it as much, runs like a Thierry Henry or aspires to run like him, and his verticality. I think I did the game with his first goal last year was against Vancouver, and Pablo wanted to get a lot more direct, and I think that's kind of started the turn of what this attack has become, and they've added some more pieces to that. But for Luna, he doesn't have to rely on all of it in one fell swoop like he did for a lot of games last year. So I think the balance you have and the fear that you create, and the fact that one's 21, 22, and the other one's 19, they're just scratching the surface. But that would be something if you get 2 RSL players on the final roster. I think Pochettino has been a Luna guy through and through, and despite his injuries this season, I think he'll be on that final roster. And everyone wants to bring up the comparisons of Robbie Findlay in 2010, I believe, or Julian Green, one of these late ads. You need weapons, and you're going to go against the greatest players in the world on the biggest stage if you're the United States. So do you settle in for midfield depth in the central part of the field, or do you look for some guy who's got blazing speed who can catch somebody by surprise? And the way Gozo's playing, scoring 3 of his last 4 games, he'd be on my team right now.
Well, Neil, I appreciate the time, and thanks for jumping around with me. That was fun. We'd love to get you back soon. Safe travels, okay?
Spence, we'll do it again soon. Thanks again.
All right, Neil Sika, MLS Apple TV, but also, as I've learned, covers and calls a lot of different sports, including a lot of football, a lot of college football, a lot of basketball. Appreciate Neil's time. All right, we'll catch a break. Reminder, Game 1, Knicks Cavs can be heard on our radio station when we say goodnight at 6 o'clock. And coming up next, former Knick Quentin Richardson joins the program to preview that game. We'll talk some Jazz hoops. We'll talk some NBA basketball. 4 o'clock hour of the show's next on ESPN 700. All right, don't forget we have game one, Cavs-Knicks tonight. You can hear it here on ESPN 700 when we say goodnight. Of course, an incredible game last night in Oklahoma City. And our next guest, friend of the program, stops by to break down some basketball. Former Knick, among other teams. I'll know him as a former Knick forever. Quentin Richardson on a Tuesday. Q, Rich, what's going on, man? How are you?
What's going on, man? I'm chilling. I hear the vibes. I like the vibes coming in.
Okay. I'm glad. I've taught my producer well. Okay, so there's never a bad time for a little Tribe Called Quest. I need a life update from you. As a big fan of you back in the day, what's going on with you these days?
Being an analyst on ESPN for the NBA, still doing NBA TV, still got the podcast. We'll be back pretty soon. Got some stuff coming with the pod. And still working with the Magic doing pre-halftime and post-game. I kind of got a lot of jobs right now. I host supervision on NBA League Pass, so that's a lot.
So when I say that I remember you as a Knick because I'm a lifelong Knick fan, what do you remember you as? Is it Clippers? Is it Knicks? What holds the soft spot in your heart?
All of them. I've developed lifelong relationships and great friendships at every stop along the way, man. From teammates to staff, be it coaching, training, or people in the organization. Every stop along the way, I can honestly say I got genuine friendships from all of them. So I got soft spots for each spot I played in.
See, the great thing about you is I feel like you're known as and remembered as just a great teammate, like a true pro. What would you say went into that? Why do people always talk? Whatever stop you were at, I feel like people just viewed you as a great teammate. Why do you think that is?
I think that's how I was raised, man. I was raised, I come from a family with brothers and sisters. My cousins lived with me, so it was like, we took care of each other, and we had the community feeling. I got raised by my community. I lost my mom in 7th grade, and, like, all of my best friends' moms were, like, my bonus moms. So, like, that's how I was. I was always used to all of us eating together. Let's all go hang out. Let's all go get something to eat. If we on the road, let's all go hang out and watch the game or do something together, go to the movies, and just fellowship, man. So from that, that started. I mean, I was fortunate to start the way I did in L.A., where we were so young. Most guys come in with a cousin or a best friend as everything. Like when you look at Lamar Odom, myself, Corey Maggette, Keon Doolin, and Darius Miles, that was 4 19-year-olds and 1 18-year-old. We couldn't even legally get in clubs or buy alcohol. So when you saw one, you saw at least 3 of the other of us. And you definitely didn't see me and D Miles without each other. So it just kind of started that way. And like I said, I was raised like that, and I took that to every team I went to, and was just made friends and hung out with guys.
Love it, man. Hey, before we get to the playoffs, let me ask you about our local team here in Salt Lake, the Utah Jazz, who made a trade to acquire Jaren Jackson Jr. last year and have landed the number 2 overall pick this year, which we think will be A.J. DeBonsa or Darren Peterson. We're not sure. Of course, Lauri Markkanen already on the roster, Keontae George with a good year last year, Ace Bailey. And after a 4-year rebuild, Q, I feel like we're going to see some really good basketball here in Salt Lake from the Jazz. What do you think next year is going to look like?
Yeah, I'm super excited for you guys. Everything that y'all been building toward has been positive, and I think, like you said, this year it'll culminate in the draft. I happen to think y'all gonna trade and get the first pick and get AJ. Point blank, I feel like he belongs with y'all team. It's like coming from the high school to BYU to being there. I feel like it's meant to be, and Danny Ainge is gonna make that happen. So I'm excited to see that, man. I'm excited to see. I mean, you guys got a great stadium, great fan base. It's really hard to play in that arena, hard to win. And once they get the right talent back in there, I think y'all gonna be jumping again. I think that time is coming sooner than later.
Tell me what kind of player you think AJ will be. Let's say the Jazz are able to grab AJ. What kind of NBA player do you think he's going to be, Q?
I think he's going to be big time. I think he's a can't miss big time, going to be one of those guys that walk right in his door And you don't have to I don't care what nobody say. Every rookie, you look at Wemby, he had his bumps and bruises and learning curves, and I think that goes for every single rookie that comes in. But I think AJ Dybans is a superstar in waiting. I think everything about him screams he's gonna be a star. He's got the work ethic. He obviously has the talent, the game, and everything that goes with it. And I love his mindset and his mentality. He's a hooper. He's strictly about hoop. He's not letting anything else, distract him. He's got a one-track mind that he wants to be great. He wants to be the best basketball player he could be. And I don't know what else a franchise would want in a kid. He shows all the signs. His parents are around him. He's been raised the right way from everything we could see. And he had, like I say, I don't see nothing else but ball with him. And that's huge for me when you look at this era when his kids doing all type of different things outside of basketball. For him, I haven't heard anything but basketball, and I love that about him.
What about Darren Peterson before we move off the draft? Because, I hope you're right. Love to see AJ here. A lot of people think Washington might grab AJ, Jazz maybe go Darren Peterson. What kind of upside do you think he has?
I think he has a huge upside, too. I mean, obviously it was good to hear whatever happened, that it was a situation that they got under control with the whole coming out. I think that was the only thing that really cast, bad optics on his situation, because coming into it, he was supposed to be, one. I think they both came in at 1 or 2. And for me, I think AJ is the better prototype because of his height, size, and his measurements and stuff like that. But I still think everything I saw from Darren Peterson, he's going to be a great NBA player and has a chance at superstardom as well.
All right, now moving over to the draft, before we get to tonight, I just want to ask you, as someone who's seen it all, I mean, quite frankly, in his career in pro basketball, have you ever seen anything like Victor Wembanyama, what he is doing at that size? Have you ever seen anything like it?
Nah, he's absolutely different. Obviously, when you look at him, the eye test, he's abundantly different with the height and all of that stuff, but I think he's different also from anything we've seen in a long, long time. When you look at, you know what I'm saying, he came in the door talking about how he wants to be great. He's checking literally every box to on the path to being great. And when you see a kid like him with the talent and the skill and everything, when he's going out of his way to go, he went to a temple somewhere with monks for a couple of weeks. He went and got with Hakeem Olajuwon. He's been with KG. He's been with Jamal Crawford. This kid is truly embodying what it means. He's not just saying, hey, I want to be great or I'm going to work hard. He's doing things outside the box and inside the box to try and do everything he can to cover every base to be as great as possible. And I definitely believe the sky's the limit for him, and he's going to take it as far as he wants to. And pretty soon, it's they got a chance to do it this year. They win the championship, but he's gonna own the league in the next couple of years. He's gonna be the face of the league, in my opinion.
They always say, Q, in the NBA, superstars are made in the playoffs on the road, right? So double overtime game on the road. You're 7-5. You pull up from the logo like Steph does. What did it show you last night for this young Spurs team without De'Aaron Fox to beat Oklahoma City with J-Dub in their building?
Yeah, not only that, that's 5 out of 6 on the year for them out of beating OKC. So, that reaffirms everything we thought during the regular season, that they are a true problem for not only everybody, but OKC in particular, who we kind of saw as, unbeatable leading up. They were the only team who really manhandled them this season. And then when you look at Wemby, man, it just shows me the kid wants the moment. Like you say, he pulled up like Steph Curry, and he's 7'5". And when he pulled up, I was sitting here on my patio watching. I stood up, and when he hit it, I just put my hands on my head like, oh my God, what do you do with that? Caruso was already extended above the 3-point line, ready to defend, but he stopped a step or two inside half court, and it was that was crazy. And it's the blocks, the rebound, the effort, you know what I'm saying, the way that he went after, that was something this kid wants it. You could visibly see his want to win and his want to be a champion and succeed. And for me, it's dope to watch, man. It's dope to watch one of the best talents, best players, really show you what it's about, going all out, doing everything he can to be as best as he can. He's setting a great example for anybody coming after him is watching.
What about the mentality? Not just. I mean, the size is stunning. The skill set at that size is stunning. But like All-Star Weekend, he's there to win. Every night, he's there to win, and he's all about the team. I feel like this is kind of a perfect combination of a guy that approaches competition the right way, and also has the skill set and the size to be generationally and historically special. What about the way he approaches his craft, Q?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I say he's going to be the face of the league because he embodies all of that. Well, and it's not, you don't have to ask him to do it. This is just who he is. He's not afraid to answer questions straight on, to talk about whatever and attack like you said, he came to the All-Star game and set the tempo, set the tone from the jump. Went right in there, banged on the dude, and like, oh, you ain't gonna play hard, I'm gonna embarrass you. So like any pro, we gonna light up after that. And like, I love the fact that he did that. I love the fact that he's not scared to say that I want to be the MVP. I want to be this, and I'm not. I love the fact that he acknowledges these are the things that are a necessity for me to be where I want to be at the end. I got to win as many of these as I can. I got to do this. I got to check all the boxes. He's very aware, and he's not afraid to talk about it, and I love that about him because I feel like a lot of people that would be in his shoes would be afraid to say those things, fearing that what I'm going to look like if I fall short. For me, I look at him, and he doesn't care. He's shooting for the moon. He'll worry about falling short after the fact. Right now, he's calling out what he want to do, and I love it.
It seems like he instantly has the respect of his peers. I mean, you're in the NBA community, so of course, as a former player and analyst, the things you're saying about him. But, oftentimes I think with some of the international guys like Rudy, who played here for a long time, it feels like a lot of people around the league just aren't necessarily big fans of Rudy. And even though Wemby's an international player, it feels like most, if not all players around the league, he instantly has the respect of everybody. Is that fair?
I would say so. But it's also because of like I say, it's about all those things and all of the steps he's taken and the way he's going about it. Like, even in not winning the MVP last night, I was listening very intently and very closely as they tried to bait him about 4 consecutive times with the whole watching SGA stuff. And even the way he handled that, man, like the David Stern and the people in that front office of the NBA, they can't be more excited to have somebody like him. Like the kid play in New York City at the Garden and go play chess with fans in New York somewhere. It's like everything that you couldn't even think to ask a player. You know how they asked us to do all these appeals. Nobody would think to ask Wemby to do that. And that was like one of the greatest things that happened that came out of last year, like a player involved, interacting with the community and fans and stuff like that. And he just gets it, man. Like listen, he was made for this role, and he is doing nothing less than starring and flourishing in it in my eyes because he's going to be the face of the NBA for sure.
So we get news that De'Aaron Fox is not going to be able to play last night, and Dylan Harper as a rookie gives you 47 minutes, 24 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, 7 steals, and 1 turnover in a conference finals game on the road for a rookie to do that, Q. What do you think?
Yeah, right now I feel like that Dylan Harper and Steph Castle are too good to be the age and to be what they are, rookie and second year. Like they are years ahead of their time with their talent, ability, the toughness aspect, the ability to play both ways. And like you said, the ability to not flinch. This is a rookie playing in his first conference finals, and he gets the word that he's going to have to start. I don't know how long before the game, but he's used to coming off the bench, surveying the game and coming in and playing against the second unit type guys. And he gets told he's going to start, and he comes out and more than delivers than, bigger than anybody could have probably expected. Balled out, played defense, was in all of the big moments. And Steph Castle, too, man, I feel like those two dudes are going to be all-stars and max players in the future, both of them, Dylan Harper and Steph Castle.
So you know that OKC's not going anywhere. And as you referenced, San Antonio, regular season, now playoffs, has got them 5 or 6 times. But they're the they're the defending champs. They've got the MVP. How do you see the rest of the thing playing out?
Oh, I definitely think it's going to be a dog fight. I absolutely believe it's going to go 6 or 7 games. I mean, that was a double overtime game, and that was one of the best games I've sat and watched in like the last 10 years from start to finish. Like just from not because it just went to overtime or double overtime. It was legit like a heavyweight fight. It was body blows, haymakers, this, that. Then it was an overtime. Then it was another overtime, and it was like you said, it was box office, man. You had Wemby showing his superstardom. You had guys. You had Alex Caruso playing out of his mind. It was just, to me, it was a great game. It was great competition at the highest level. And if you're a fan of basketball, the NBA, and all that, you can't have nothing to say. Like all you can say about that is that the Knicks and the Cavs got a hell of an act to follow.
Yeah, they do. So let's move over to that now. First of all, playoff atmosphere, Eastern Conference Finals, MSG. What are you expecting tonight at the Garden?
Oh, man, it's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. This is as crazy as last night's game was. The atmosphere won't be able to touch what this game, like when they start calling out the starting lineup and everything, and the buzz and the how loud it's going to be in that arena. And I'm looking more forward to if they win, so I can see them people outside. They're going to be climbing the poles. They're going to be doing everything out there. So I'm just here for all of that. And plus, I would like to see the Knicks win because of the history, because of all of the people that I know that's been working there for so long and had to endure all of the ups and downs that they've been through, from the trainers to the staff to the front office people that work in the organization to the red coats and the people that work in the Garden. They've been there for a long time, and they've been enduring a lot of losing. So every time they get a chance to advance and win, I feel like they got a real shot to go to the finals this year. I think that'll be, man, so amazing for them to experience that and just to be happy for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Because they get a lot of letdowns out there.
Yeah, they haven't been to the finals since '99. Q. It's been what, 27 years now. That's quite a gap for a Knicks finals appearance.
And that fan base deserves better, because they are they gotta be top whatever as far as fan base is going. I ain't gonna disrespect nobody, but like New York Knicks fans are some of the most maniacal, insane, down for their team fans you will ever be around or ever witness. Like, they go hard.
Yes, they do. We had Donovan Mitchell out here for 5 years before Danny Ainge decided to trade him to Cleveland. And for the first time in his 9-year career, Q, he is going to a conference finals. Tell me what you've seen from Donovan, kind of how he's grown and what you're expecting from him as he is going home from that region, playing at the Garden.
The one thing I know about Donovan, he gonna go. It won't be no stories about he didn't try this. Like, I respect that about him. The kid, 100% of the time, always plays hard, always gives his all. And none of us perfect. Yeah, sometimes you don't have the game you want. That's how basketball goes, and that's how it happens sometimes. But be that as it may, this is his first time making it to a conference finals. I don't put that solely on him. It's not like he was the one always coming up short. I felt like he needed more support from teammates in different years and different situations. But Donovan Mitchell is a gamer. I expect him to be game ready and be ready to go to battle tonight. And this whole series, like you say, he going home to New York. Like, this is a dream for a kid from New York City. You on the biggest stage at Madison Square Garden. All eyes is on you. Ain't no other games. Everybody in the NBA, all basketball fans watching. I expect Donovan Mitchell to be a gamer like he always is. I've never had a problem with nothing he does out there. He go hard, he leave it out there, and he do what he could do.
What about Harden? What about James Harden, who in the past has had some difficult playoff performances and experiences, and now he finds himself back in the conference finals? What do you make of the Harden storyline?
I look at this as a unique situation for Harden. While obviously the history is what it is as far as him getting deep into the playoffs and, not performing well and things like that. But I also look at it like the history bodes well for him. He always cooked the Knicks. You go look at his record and his numbers against the Knicks. I don't care which team he was on. Certain people have certain affinities for certain places, and I feel like the Garden is one of those places for James Harden. So I'm interested. I'm extremely interested to see how he performs and how he plays, because all of the numbers like point to him playing really well and doing really well. He's got a big-time winning record against the Knicks on any team he's with, and his numbers are awesome against the Knicks. So I'm very interested to see how it goes for him in this series.
Before I set you loose, who do you think we will see in the NBA Finals?
I'm going to go Knicks and Spurs.
Oof. Can New York give them a series?
We will see.
All right.
Listen. I feel this is just my thought process. I know it's going to be hard because I'm not writing OKC off. I will not be surprised if OKC still win this. But I feel like if Wemby gets to the finals, ain't nobody going to be able to stop him. And when I'm looking at the teams that's left, nobody ain't equipped to stop him. Not that anybody in the league is, but I'm just looking at Cleveland and New York, and I don't. They ain't got what it takes for him.
Yeah.
I feel like if he get there, his determination and all of that is gonna be so high that he's gonna go bananas in the finals if he makes it.
Yeah, it's been something to watch. I'll tell you what. Hey, thanks so much for the time. We'll set you loose. Love to have you back on again soon. Okay.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
All right, Quentin Richardson, former Knick. That's how I remember him. Started his career with the Clippers, spent some time in Phoenix, Miami, Orlando, then finished his career in New York. Appreciate Q's time today. Stops by courtesy of IFA Country Stores. Now, there's nothing like taking in a game on a sunny afternoon. You can get your field ready this summer with IFA's 4+ lawn care program. It's a blend especially formulated for Utah soils. Get healthy, lush, dark green grass this summer by making your power move today at IFA. We'll catch a break. Coming up on the other side, we'll continue to kind of talk about the landscape of the NBA playoffs with San Antonio. An unbelievable win last night at OKC. Again, Knicks Cavs coming up. NBA draft right around the corner as well. Then we'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program and say goodnight at 6 on ESPN 700. Couple things, a little update. First of all, I'm being trolled on my own show because is this the fourth? What's the Rob Thomas Band Matchbox 20 song we played today? Is this the fourth Matchbox 20 song?
Well, just to be clear, just to correct the record, Rob Thomas, Santana.
So this is not a Matchbox 20
Not
song.
a Matchbox 20 joint.
Okay.
I didn't go there.
Okay. Well, I mean, ultimately the beef was with Rob Thomas specifically.
Oh, we did get a texter in all caps. Rob Thomas sucks.
Thank you, texter.
So.
I mean, for our listeners, and let me pose the question to you. Also, update number 2, I'm wearing a scarf. I don't know if you noticed.
I noticed.
So if you want to turn on YouTube, it is an ice box in the studio. It is freezing in here.
I don't know if it's scarf cold.
It is scarf cold in here. You are not in here. You were in there where it's nice and warm. But again, I do not want to complain because when the summer hits,
right,
it gets extremely warm in here. So I left to go see if I could track down a coat of some sort, and all I could find is this scarf. So if you want to turn on the YouTube feed, you could see me wearing a scarf. It's probably a little bit of an overreaction. I'm too cold for – I'm not old enough to be this cold in the spring. But for whatever reason, it is an icebox in here. So the reason Porter is trolling me with Matchbox 20, let me ask you the question I asked Sean. Does anything come to mind, the weirdest reason you have either been broken up with or the weirdest reason you broke up with another person?
It wasn't a Rob Thomas joint.
Okay. Well, that was my deal.
Is that, can you expand on that? I'll think about it.
What happened was I was kind of hanging out with a person. This was a number of years ago. She was very nice, very cute. We had a fun few dates. And one night she was like, hey, come over to my place. I walk in her house and there are 20 Rob Thomas posters, some like vintage Third Eye Blind vinyl. And I said to her, well, okay. Seems like you're kind of into Matchbox 20, huh? And she said, Rob Thomas is a genius. And then I said, you know what? I think we're good here. I think that'll do. And that was it. Never saw her again.
Wow.
Hopefully she's married to somebody who matches her, Rob Thomas Matchbox 20 love. I just couldn't get there.
I'm sure she does. You know who I used to always confuse Rob Thomas with Dave Matthews stuff.
Now you're trolling.
No,
now
I'm
you're
dead
trolling.
serious.
Well, there's no similarities there.
We used to play this game with my family. You remember 99.5, the local channel?
Yes, absolutely.
And after every song, like a robot would come on and say the song name and the title.
Yep.
We would try to figure that out. And I always mix those two up.
Well, that says a lot about you because there's nothing similar between Rob Thomas and Dave Matthews. Nothing at all.
They're geniuses.
Well, that's fair. I feel like you're dodging the question. Is there not one that comes to mind? You don't have to answer. It's
I
all
mean,
right.
I don't want to air dirty laundry, but
Sean and I were going back and forth about it.
sleeping with all my friends doesn't help.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Well, that's not a... I have several questions now. That's not a strange reason for a breakup. That sounds like it's very valid to me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any, first off, only had a few, long enough relationships to consider it like a breakup.
You're doing it right. Nice work.
So, yeah.
Would you like to expand?
No,
Okay.
Not even a little bit would I
All
like
right.
to expand on that.
Well, okay. Well, sounds like we need to converse off air. So there you go. That's the genesis of why we were discussing the Matchbox 20 Rob Thomas thing. Over Saturday naps, a breakup occurred over Saturday naps.
Okay.
That occurred.
Too many Saturday naps?
No, just the fact that I enjoy a Saturday nap.
What? I mean, how do you watch every college football game of the entire day without getting a nap?
Yeah.
Some sort of siesta in.
No, I think naps are healthy. I think napping during the day is a healthy nap. Just 20 to 30 minutes. You don't need to be sleeping for 2 to 3 hours at 1 p.m.
It's a power nap. You got to be ready for kickoff.
No, I'm a fan. See what I'm doing? Ready?
There we go.
Q Rich, YouTube. If you want to turn it on, you can see me doing the Q Rich in a scarf. Quentin Richardson joined us last segment. Do you I feel like Q played for the Knicks when you were kind of starting to cheer for the Knicks.
Quinn Richardson was on my wall when I was in high school.
A poster.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be clear, because otherwise you'd be in some trouble.
I had like the entirety of the 2013 Knicks plastered on my wall in some form or fashion. Because if you remember, as Knicks fandom goes, that was one of our two good teams in the last 2 decades. So yeah, Q Rich, not only did I remembered him like the first stint with the Knicks, but then he went on to, a bunch of different stops in the league. And every time I would create a team on 2K, you mentioned just a good teammate, good shooter, good defender, no star drama. I would always sign Quentin Richardson to my team. He was one of Q Rich, Lamar Odom, Ben Wallace. There were a few, but they were always on my create a team. So the fact now to know Q a little bit and obviously friend of the show is super cool. And when I was in high school, you could have, after a 3, you could have seen me doing a little knucklehead.
Oh, is that okay?
That's a real deal.
That was a little after my time. Of all the 3-point
I was a knucklehead.
Oh, it's all right. Of all the 3-point celebrations, was that your favorite? Is that the number one?
It was always either that or my mellow.
You got 3 goggles. You got the mellow 3 to the head.
That was my choice.
You got the Devin Booker bow and arrow.
The way too dramatic J.R. Smith, full on choreographed dance.
There was the J.R. Smith 3-point celebration. All right, Donovan Mitchell, after 9 years, is in the conference finals for the first time. We had him here 5 years. Do you find yourself, I was talking to Smitty about this, do you find yourself cheering for players that were here when they go elsewhere and have success?
Sometimes, for the most part. Definitely more so guys that I've covered and, done post-game stuff with. Definitely players that I've seen maybe at draft when the Jazz are working them out, and then you get to know them a little bit through the entire process. Just in general, players, coaches, college players that were in the market. Now there are exceptions, I would say, but for the most part, I definitely do.
I'm happy for him. Ultimately, it'll be interesting to see how he responds to this challenge of. Look, there's never been any secret about where Donovan would like to end up. Now, there are some people around him that have surmised in the past that he actually wants L.A. instead of New York. I can't really corroborate that. He is a Northeast kid, Greenwich, okay? We got to stop pretending like he grew up in Brooklyn or something. He grew up in Connecticut, and his father is a longtime executive for the New York Mets. And I'm happy for him for the opportunity to go back to where he grew up, going to basketball games and playing basketball, to take a shot at the New York Knicks here to see if the Cleveland Cavaliers can get it done. And we talked about this with Howard Beck from The Ringer last week. You could count me among the folks who rolled their eyes when the Cleveland Cavaliers acquired James Harden and gave us the propaganda team spin that they did that for a playoff run. And you can only analyze how this stuff is going to go based on how it's always gone. And James Harden's playoff failures are well documented. And he was not good in Game 7 against Detroit. I mean, that was a game where Detroit just could not shoot straight. It was over pretty quickly. Really disappointing Game 7, quite frankly. And for all of the accomplishments of the Detroit Pistons this year with former Jazz general manager Dennis Lindsey assisting Trajan Langdon in this roster construction, I didn't believe Detroit was built for a long playoff run. I mean, their offense is so heavily predicated on 1-4 flat Cade, high pick and roll Cade, primary ball handler Jalen Duren. They've got some shooters around him, Duncan Robinson, Tobias Harris, when he's actually playing well. I just think at this stage of his career, it's hard to count on him for a deep playoff run. So I think Cleveland was a little bit fortunate to run into Detroit in the second round. Cleveland, their roster on paper is superior to the Detroit Pistons. I don't think it's superior to the New York Knicks. I think the Knicks should win this series. Obviously, home court advantage, Madison Square Garden. Man, I would love to be there tonight. It will be electric. It's going to be an incredible scene. And I'm excited to see how Donovan responds. You know, there's a playoff narrative around Donovan that is fair at times. He's been both brilliant and then transparent. Like in some playoff games when the big money is on the line, when the chips are on the table, Donovan has not responded the way he's needed to when things are at their peak. But he has done that so far this playoff run. And sometimes we're so quick to label players or coaches or teams as who they have been as it pertains to who they will be forever. And I'm always reminded of John and Carl not getting to the NBA Finals until they're basically their mid-30s, right? For 13, 14 years, they were building up to the moment to have the opportunity to win an NBA championship. They just ran into the dude that ripped the rings off everyone's fingers, and that was Mike. But it took them a decade plus of making the playoffs, winning a round, going to the Western Conference Finals, taking a step back, going back to the Western Conference, and they finally break through in 97 or 98. I don't know how much more Donovan can maximize his talents. I don't know that, he's about 6'2". I don't know that you can win an NBA championship when your best player is a 6'2" primary ball handler that at times plays hero ball basketball, and he does. I've used the analogy in the past. Sometimes I like that he thinks he's the best player in any gym that he walks into. You need that delusional level of self-confidence to be a pro. You need that delusional level of self-confidence to win championships. He's not built like Durant. He's not built like LeBron. He's not built like Kobe. He's not built like A.J. DeBonce or Darren Peterson, quite frankly. He's a smallish guard that is ball dominant and at times makes decisions that feel like they're steeped in what's best for him and not best for the team. But are we starting to see maybe Donovan move into the next level and the next part of his career where maybe he can count himself among the best players in pro basketball? I don't know where you would rank him. Is he top 10? He's probably close. He's been really applauded, I think, for growing into a leader in a way that I don't think he was ever considered a leader here. It's one of the reasons Dennis Lindsey decided to expedite the growth of that team by bringing in Mike Conley, which, if you can bring in Mike Conley, you bring in Mike Conley. You make that deal. At that stage of his career, you only had a couple years left. He did make an all-star team, and you were going to battle every night. And I think they made that deal in no small part because they had a rim-protecting center in Rudy Gobert that could make up for some perimeter defensive efficiencies. And Rudy did. I will die on the hill. For all the criticism he took, that team was only in games defensively because of Gobert. Because Mike, 6'1", Donovan, 6'2", 6'3", that's your starting backcourt in NBA era where most starting backcourts, like when you look at what we saw last night, San Antonio starting backcourt is Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, 6'5", 6'6", both of them. Julian Champagny, their quote-unquote small forward, Devin Vassell. I mean, they surround Victor Wembanyama with like four dudes who are between 6'5" and 6'7" that can dribble, pass, and shoot and are big and physical. Oklahoma City starting backcourt is Shea, who's like 6'8", and Lou Dort, who's like 6'5" and built like a linebacker. J-Dub, 6'8", Hartenstein, 6'10", Chet, 7'1". I mean, that backcourt the Jazz had, very skilled players, just small. And Royce is like 6'4", So you expedite the growth with Mike Conley, and a lot of the conversation was Donovan at that stage of his career. As Quinn used to say, he is learning how to become a star. Because you don't understand the responsibilities of that overnight. It takes a minute. So 9 years for Donovan to make the conference finals. And now we'll see how he performs in the moment. I do think New York has the superior roster. and I do think New York should win this series. But a fun kind of side storyline for me to watch is seeing Donovan go back home where he's surrounded by friends and family in a building that he grew up going to games to, playing against a team that everybody knows at some point he would love to play for. I don't buy the Brooklyn stuff. I think Donovan is going to do everything he can at some point to spend a good 4 or 5 years playing for the Knicks. I don't really see a pathway there because, as I said, concerning Donovan and Mike Conley, I don't see a Donovan Mitchell, Jalen Brunson backcourt really being all that effective. I love both of them. They're both awesome players individually, but that's a redundant situation where they're very similar in stature. They're both very ball dominant. Maybe at some point, if the stuff with the Knicks gets a little bit loose and they don't think this group can work, is there some sort of swap that's made? As long as Jalen Brunson is a Knick, I don't think Donovan Mitchell will be. But seeing Donovan play tonight at MSG against New York in the conference finals, I think it's a really cool thing. I really do. I know Donovan can be a lightning rod around here for the way it ended, especially juxtaposed to the way it started. That's the hard part. This kid burst on the scene here. I was the first media member to interview him on draft night because I was with Jazz Radio. Got a good 10, 12 minutes with him, and I was blown away. I'm like, that kid gets it. He was raised to be a pro. Comes here, embraces the city. And this is a city that was healing after Gordon Hayward ruined all of our July 4ths. Wondering, are we going to find a player who can be an elite player on the floor, but also embrace Salt Lake off the floor? And whether it was a directive from his father, who is an executive in pro baseball, whether it was a CAA catered image thing. Sometimes we forget that prior to the COVID situation where it changed that team forever, Donovan did embrace Salt Lake and he did embrace Utah. And if we're honest, he walked on water here. For all the conversations about like, oh, he soured on the market soured on him. We have to remember that for the first 4.5 years of his career, Donovan was everybody's favorite player. And the answer to what's next post Hayward. And he performed. He should have been Rookie of the Year. I'll never forget the building against the Pelicans his rookie year when he dropped 40. And it was kind of his coming out party to the rest of the country. Because as the story goes, Donovan himself didn't think he was ready to go to the NBA. Wasn't sure if he was even going to be drafted. It was Chris Paul who told him, "You're ready. Go now." He was a late lottery pick. You redraft that draft, he's probably a top 3 pick. But the Jazz got him at, I think, 13, if I remember correctly. He was a late lottery pick. Scouted as a defensive stopper at Louisville as opposed to some offensive juggernaut that he worked his way into. Donovan does have the reputation of being a worker and wanting to maximize who he is as an NBA player. And I do cheer for the guys that we had here as they go elsewhere. And certainly a guy like Donovan, who gave this market a lot. Unfortunately, the ending wasn't what anybody was hoping for, but kind of grew into a pro here, grew into an all-star here, and now he's ascending to this next level. And if he is able to lead the Cleveland Cavaliers into Madison Square Garden, not just tonight, but throughout the course of this Eastern Conference Finals, if Donovan is the superior player to Jalen Brunson and Cleveland advances to the NBA Finals, I wonder what sort of leverage that gives him in his well-known quest throughout his basketball journey, his pro basketball journey, to maybe end up where he's always wanted to end up, in the building he'll be in tonight, just wearing the jersey of the home team. Don't forget, we say goodnight at 6. We will send you to coverage of Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Knicks and the Cavs. We'll catch a break. 5 o'clock hour of the show's next on ESPN 700. All right, wrapping up the program for a Tuesday afternoon. A little chilly today. It's going to warm up a little bit throughout the course of the week, and then a pretty nice weekend ahead. Happy Tuesday to you. Don't forget, Game 1 tonight, Cavs-Knicks, Madison Square Garden will come your way after we say goodnight. What's your gut tell you? Knicks-Cavs, what's your gut tell you? What do you think?
My gut is like in a perpetual state of not trusting the Knicks and always feeling very nervous, feeling not confident. But I'm gonna push that away. I think we have the better roster. I think there's more depth on the Knicks side. They're healthy. They're rested. I know OG Anunoby's a game time decision, but I think if he's not ready to go, I think it's maybe just giving an extra day of rest. I think that is actually a big piece of this series. If you can have him to throw at Harden and Donovan, I really do like the Knicks in this series. And I think they get it done both tonight. And I hope, I pray that they get it done and punch their ticket to a finals.
Did you say pray?
Yes.
You will be praying before the game tonight.
Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe I will.
I'm not judging. Look,
usually reserve it to more serious inquiries, but hey, I've been tortured. I've been a tortured soul my entire Knicks fandom. So
professional athletes thank God after every game. Maybe,
right.
Look, do whatever you have to do.
Maybe just the basketball gods for this one.
Well, do whatever you have to do to make yourself feel better about your team, your life, and whatever helps you sleep at night. If you want to pray, pray. I'm not judging.
And we may need that in the orange and blue.
When you pray, do you get down on your knees? Do you fold your arms? Or is it a silent prayer?
That depends.
Okay.
Yes, usually.
On the knees, arms folded?
Of course.
Well, if you're going to pray, you should be respectful. That's all I'm saying.
It's reverent, of course.
Weird non sequitur there. Rashee Rice has been sentenced to serve 30 days in jail after testing positive for marijuana and violating his probation. He will miss OTAs and minicamp for the Kansas City Chiefs. So there you go. All right. Before we say goodnight, some sad news today, and just in case any of his family members are listening to the program, Steve Johnson, the former president of Broadway, of the company that, of course, runs this radio station and several others. Steve was our president for a number of different years. He recently took a leave of absence to tend to some health issues, and we lost Steve today. Steve passed away. And you just want to, in case any of his family members are listening, I know a lot of them are sports fans. We loved your dad. We loved Steve around here. Steve is in no small part a big reason why I was able to get back on air and start this radio show. And we negotiated 3 different contracts, and he was always tough but very fair to me. And Steve is a well-known figure in the radio community and in the media community here in Salt Lake, working for, 40 years, 50 years, something like that, for several different radio stations, several different ownerships groups. And so, sad day today for us here at Broadway Media as Steve Johnson passed away. And if any of the Johnson family are listening, we loved your father. And we will be thinking of you during this difficult time as you say goodbye to a really kind, decent, great man, Steve Johnson, who ran our company for a number of different years. All right, Porter, time to get out of here. What's coming up on a Wednesday edition of the program?
Yeah, Wednesday edition of The Drive. Of course, we'll recap the first 2 games of the conference finals. We'll do that on our NBA Daily Assist with Tim McMahon. We'll talk some RSL with, I believe, Pablo, but someone from the club on that regard. We're going to catch up with Andy Larson. I think we'll probably still talk some sports with Andy.
Yeah, for sure.
And then your buddy Patrick Overhaul is going to come in studio as well. So we'll kind of go around the map tomorrow.
There you go. Join us for a Wednesday edition of the program. We will say goodnight and make space for Cavs Knicks coming up. Special thank you to Chris Comrani, as well as Neil Syka, Quentin Richardson. If you missed any of the sound from the show today, go to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Download the mobile app and take us on the go. And then check out our podcast page. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. It's available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments, and give us all the stars. It helps. Reporter, I'm Spence saying it. Have a great Tuesday evening. Enjoy Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Cavs and the Knicks, and it's coming your way. Coming up next right here on ESPN 700.